Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into the English-speaking job market today.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Think of this deep dive like your secret weapon for decoding all that tricky job hunting lingo.
I like it.
We've got some great source material lined up that's basically a crash course on everything from resumes to interviews to all that good stuff.
It's really fascinating, actually. What I found really interesting about these sources is that they don't just define the terms.
Right.
They really get into the strategy behind them,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, that's
It's
it.
like they've taken all the best advice from career coaches and hiring managers and distilled it all down into these really actionable tips.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Resumes.
Oh,
Everyone's favorite topic, right?
the bane of our existence.
I know. But seriously, our source material highlights something really crucial here.
Okay.
The power of strong action verbs.
Yes.
And I don't just mean like using managed instead of did. It's about getting way more specific and impactful with your word choices.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's about thinking about, okay, if you are a software developer, instead of saying developed a website, you could say led a team of 5 to develop a user-friendly website that increased customer engagement by 20%.
Whoa.
See the difference?
Okay, yeah. That's way more powerful.
Right.
It's not just about what you did.
Yeah,
It's about the impact you made.
exactly. And that's what employers want to see results.
Hmm.
So I have a challenge for everyone listening.
Ooh, I like a challenge.
Pull up your own resume.
Okay.
Take a look at those verbs.
All right, I'm doing it right now.
Are they doing your skills justice?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Could you swap them out for something stronger, something that really showcases your accomplishments?
I love that little homework assignment.
There you go.
All right, so you've got your resume packed with power verbs.
Check.
Now you need a cover letter to really seal the deal.
Yeah.
This is where a lot of people get stuck. But our source material breaks down the purpose and structure
No.
in a way that's super clear
Yeah.
and actually kind of inspiring.
It is.
Yeah.
You know what I found really interesting here is that the source emphasizes how a cover letter is your chance to show your personality.
Okay.
Your resume is all facts and figures, but the cover letter is where you can let your passion and enthusiasm shine through.
Uh-huh.
It's where you connect with the employer on a human level.
So it's not just a summary of your resume.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mini story about why you're the perfect fit
Precisely.
for this specific role.
Yes. And you know what else I found really helpful?
What's that?
The source material talks about the importance of the call to action in the closing paragraph.
Oh,
It's not just about saying thanks for your time.
yeah.
It's about proactively expressing your eagerness to move forward in the process.
Okay, it's just like, hey, I'm ready for that interview. Let's do this.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've got the killer resume and a compelling cover letter.
We're doing good.
Now we need to find the right jobs to apply for.
All right, the fun part.
Yeah. So our source material dives into decoding job postings,
Okay.
like how to read between the lines and figure out what employers are really looking for.
Yes, and this is where things get strategic.
Ooh, I like it.
The source material gives this great tip about using keywords from the job posting to tailor your resume and cover letter.
Oh, that's smart.
It's about speaking their language, showing them that you understand their needs and that you've done your homework.
It makes sense if you're an employer and you see a resume that's clearly tailored to your specific job posting, shows that the applicant is serious and invested.
Absolutely. And it's not just about keywords.
Okay.
It's about understanding the underlying problems that the company's trying to solve. What are their pain points?
Right.
How can your skills and experience help them overcome those challenges?
Ooh.
If you can articulate that
Yeah,
in your application materials, you'll definitely stand out.
that's such a good point. Okay, let's move on to some of the more foundational elements
Yes.
of the job application process.
Okay.
Qualifications, experience, and references.
The classics.
I know our source material covers the basics here, but it also includes a really important insider tip about references
Oh, yes.
that I think a lot of people overlook.
This is one of those things that seems obvious, but it's crucial.
Oh, really?
Always get permission before listing someone as a reference.
Oh.
Not only is it common courtesy,
Okay.
but it also gives your reference a chance to prepare
Oh, that's good.
and make sure they're comfortable speaking about your qualifications.
Yeah, you don't want to catch someone off guard
Exactly.
and potentially like sabotage your chances.
Right. It's much better to have a few enthusiastic references who are ready to sing your praises
Yes.
than a long list of people who are hesitant or unprepared.
Okay, so you've submitted your application
Fingers crossed.
and you get the call for an interview.
Yay.
Exciting but nerve-wracking, right?
Oh, for sure.
Our source material acknowledges this and really emphasizes the importance of preparation.
Absolutely.
And they offer some really practical advice
Okay.
for tackling one of the most common interview questions.
Which is?
Tell me about yourself.
Oh,
I know this is where so many people stumble,
I know I do.
but it's actually a golden opportunity to make a strong first impression.
It is.
Yeah, I always find myself like fumbling through that one.
Me too.
So what's the secret?
The key is to craft a concise and engaging response that highlights your relevant skills and experience.
Okay.
And then this is the crucial part, connects them back to the specific role you're interviewing for. You're not just reciting your resume.
Right.
You're telling a story that demonstrates why you're the perfect fit for this particular job.
It's like you're saying, here's who I am, here's what I'm good at, and here's how I can contribute to your team.
Exactly.
I like it.
And you know what else I found helpful?
Tell me.
The source material suggests practicing your response out loud,
Oh?
even recording yourself,
Ooh, that's a good idea.
so you can hear how you sound.
Yeah.
You want to come across as confident and enthusiastic,
Right.
not robotic or rehearsed.
That's such good advice.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people focus on what they're going to say, but forget about how they're going to say it.
Totally. And remember, an interview is a two-way street.
That's true.
It's not just about answering their questions. It's about asking your own questions.
Right.
To get a feel for the company culture
Yeah.
and whether it's a good fit for you.
That's a great reminder.
So we've talked about resumes, cover letters, and interviews.
We are on a roll.
Now let's dive into the world of networking.
All right, let's do it.
Our source material defines it as building relationships to discover job opportunities.
Okay.
It's about making connections and expanding your professional circle.
I like that.
But what's really interesting here is that the source goes beyond the traditional idea of networking.
Okay.
At formal events,
Right.
they talk about the importance of building relationships online.
Oh, like LinkedIn.
Exactly, through platforms like LinkedIn and even through casual conversations with people in your field.
Wow. I love that. It's like networking doesn't have to be this stuffy, formal thing.
Yeah,
It can happen organically through genuine interactions.
absolutely. And, you know, sometimes the most unexpected connections can lead to the most amazing opportunities.
That's so true. Okay, before we move on, I want to touch on a topic
Yes.
that's often a bit awkward.
Uh-oh.
Perks and pay.
The money talk.
I know it's important to be prepared to discuss salary expectations
Yes,
during the interview process.
it is.
But how do you even approach that conversation?
Well, our source material has some excellent advice on this.
Okay, good.
It emphasizes the importance of researching average salaries
Okay,
for similar roles in your location.
that makes sense.
Knowledge is power when it comes to negotiation.
Right.
You need to know your worth and be able to articulate it confidently.
You don't want to undersell yourself or price yourself out of the running.
Exactly. And it's not just about salary.
Oh.
It's about understanding the entire compensation package, benefits, vacation time, professional development opportunities.
All that good stuff.
All of it.
Okay, this is all great information.
I know, right?
But I'm curious, what about different work styles?
Oh, yeah.
Full-time, part-time, freelance contract work.
It's a whole new world out there.
There's so many options these days.
You're absolutely right. And our source material actually does a fantastic job of breaking down these different work styles.
Okay.
And encouraging you to think about which one aligns best with your lifestyle and career goals.
That's so important. There's
Yeah.
no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. It's about finding the work style that allows you to thrive both professionally and personally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what's really fascinating is that the traditional 9-to-5 office job
Yeah,
is becoming less and less common.
it's true.
More and more people are opting for remote work, flexible schedules, and even starting their own businesses.
I love to see it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part.
We have.
We've talked about crafting a powerful resume,
Check.
writing a compelling cover letter,
Sure.
acing that interview,
Check.
networking like a pro,
Check.
and even navigating the tricky waters of salary negotiation and work style options.
We did it.
But there's so much more to explore.
I know in part 2, we're going to dive even deeper into the English-speaking job market.
Ooh, exciting.
We'll tackle those subtle but oh so important workplace dynamics,
Okay.
cultural nuances, and communication styles that can really make or break your success.
Can't wait. Welcome back. So we just finished talking about finding the right work style.
Yeah.
But you know, Actually, landing the job is just the first step.
Right.
Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of what it's like to navigate the English-speaking workplace.
Okay.
And I gotta say, some of these source materials are giving me flashbacks
Really?
to my first office job.
Ooh.
Good times, mostly.
That's good.
It's like there's this whole hidden curriculum
Totally.
that no one tells you about.
Right.
You learn the job description, sure.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole other layer of workplace culture, unspoken rules, communication styles.
Oh, yeah.
It can be a lot to figure out.
Totally. And our sources don't just skim the surface here.
No.
They get into some really interesting and sometimes awkward aspects of office life.
Okay. Give me an example.
Okay, like, remember that whole thing about probation periods?
Uh-huh.
I always thought that was just paperwork stuff.
Right. But the source material we have really digs into the strategy behind it.
Okay.
It points out that probation periods are a chance for both the employer and the employee to assess if it's a good fit.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's not just about keeping your head down and doing your work, It's about actively demonstrating your value and exceeding expectations.
Okay, that's a good spin on it.
Yeah.
View it as a proving ground.
Not just a waiting period.
Exactly.
Speaking of proving yourself, our sources also cover job descriptions,
Okay.
but in a way I hadn't really thought of before.
What's that?
What I found fascinating here is they emphasize how job descriptions are often just the starting point.
Oh, interesting.
As you settle into a role,
Yeah.
your responsibilities might evolve.
Right.
You might take on new projects or even find yourself collaborating with different teams.
Ooh.
So it's not about being confined by that job description,
Okay.
but being open to growth and taking on new challenges.
Exactly. And the sources even tie this back to the idea of promotions, suggesting that going above and beyond your initial job description can actually position you really well for advancement.
Okay, so it's like always be looking for ways to add value.
Yes.
Even if it's outside the strict lines of your job description.
Yeah.
But how do you balance that with, you know, not burning yourself out?
Right. That's important.
Yeah. Our sources talk a lot about work-life balance.
Yes.
Which feels super relevant these days.
It is. It's a hot topic, and the sources highlight that it's not just about clocking out at 5 p.m. either.
Right.
It's about setting boundaries, prioritizing your well-being, and making sure you have time for things you enjoy outside of work.
You know, I think it's also about recognizing that everyone's definition of balance is different.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
That's a great point. And the sources actually suggest having open conversations with your manager or team about your individual needs and preferences.
Yeah.
It's about finding a balance that works for both you and the company.
Okay, so we've talked about navigating your role within a company.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the people and, dare I say, the drama. I mean, our sources get real about office politics.
It's one of those topics people kind of dance around, but it's definitely a reality in most workplaces. What I found really helpful is that the sources break down office politics into a few key elements.
Like what?
Well, they talk about understanding the informal networks and relationships within the company. Who are the key influencers? Who are the decision makers? And how do those dynamics actually play out?
So it's not about being gossipy or manipulative.
No.
It's about being aware of the power structures.
Right.
And navigating them in a way that's both ethical and effective.
Exactly. And it also ties back to something we talked about earlier. Networking, the stronger your relationships are within the company, the better equipped you'll be to navigate those sometimes choppy political waters.
Okay, that makes sense. Speaking of navigating.
Yes.
Our sources also get into something that can be really tricky.
Okay.
Especially in a globalized world, and that's cultural nuances.
Right, like what flies in one culture might be a major faux pas in another.
Exactly. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The sources don't just provide a list of do's and don'ts.
Right.
They encourage you to approach cultural differences with curiosity and respect.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like instead of assuming you know what's appropriate, ask questions, observe how others interact.
Right.
And be willing to adapt your communication style.
Absolutely. And it's not just about avoiding offense. It's about building trust and understanding across cultural boundaries.
Okay, so we've talked about navigating office politics.
Yes.
And cultural nuances.
We have.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of communication itself.
All right.
Our sources are full of vocabulary related to workplace conversations, meetings, and emails.
It's a lot.
I know.
Yeah.
What's interesting is they don't just define the terms.
Okay.
They give you tips for using them effectively.
Ooh.
Like, for example, they talk about the importance of active listening
Yes.
in meetings.
It's so important.
It's not just about hearing what's being said. It's about engaging with the ideas, asking clarifying questions, and really demonstrating that you're paying attention.
Right. So like nodding and saying, every once in a while
Yeah.
isn't going to cut it.
Not exactly.
Active listening is about being present and engaged, both verbally and non-verbally.
Okay.
It's about making eye contact, taking notes,
Right.
and even summarizing what you've heard to make sure you understand correctly.
Got it. Active listening.
Check.
What else do we need to know about communication?
Well, the sources also talk about the importance of giving and receiving feedback effectively.
Okay, feedback.
It's not just about praising good work or pointing out mistakes. It's about providing constructive criticism
Right.
that helps people grow and develop.
Okay, I think we all know how important that is,
Yes.
but it can be so tricky to do well.
It is, and the sources acknowledge that they recommend focusing on specific behaviors, not personality traits,
Okay.
and framing feedback in a way that's solution-oriented.
So it's not about blaming or shaming.
Yeah.
It's about helping people improve.
Exactly.
That's a really good distinction, and I think it ties into the whole idea of creating a positive and supportive work environment,
Yeah,
which, let's be honest, can be tough sometimes.
it can, but our sources have some great insights.
Oh, good.
On fostering a healthy workplace culture. They talk about the importance of clear communication,
Okay.
mutual respect, and a sense of shared purpose.
So, like, it's not just about being friendly.
Right.
It's about creating a space where everyone feels valued and respected,
Yeah.
and where they can contribute their best work.
Exactly. And it also ties into something we touched on earlier,
What's that?
teamwork. The sources really emphasize the importance of collaboration,
Okay.
both within teams and across departments.
I like that.
It's about recognizing that everyone has something valuable to contribute, and that working together is essential for achieving shared goals.
Right. So we've talked about navigating workplace dynamics,
Yes.
cultural
Yeah.
nuances, communication styles, feedback, and teamwork. Is there anything else we need to know before we venture out into the wilds
Oh, I like that.
of the English-speaking workplace?
Well, there's one more topic our sources highlight that I think is really important, and that's mentorship.
Okay. Mentorship.
They emphasize the value of having a more experienced person
Yeah.
who can offer guidance, support, and insights as you navigate your career.
I've heard about that, but I always thought it was something you had to, like, formally apply for.
It can be, but the sources suggest that mentorship can also happen organically
Oh, okay.
through relationships you build within your company or even within your professional network.
So it's like, be open to learning from people who have more experience than you.
Right.
And don't be afraid to ask for advice or guidance.
Exactly. And it goes both ways.
Oh, that's a good point.
As you gain experience, you can also mentor others and share your knowledge and insights.
That's a great point. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part.
We have.
We've talked about navigating workplace dynamics, cultural nuances, communication styles, feedback, teamwork, and even mentorship.
We're really getting into the nuances of what it takes to thrive
I know.
in the English-speaking job market.
We are.
But there's still more to explore in part 3. We're going to dive even deeper into those sometimes unspoken rules of workplace etiquette,
Ooh.
those subtle but oh so important cues
Yeah,
that can make all the difference in how you're perceived.
can't wait.
Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into the English-speaking job market.
Ooh, the grand finale.
I know we've covered so much ground already. Resumes, interviews, networking, office dynamics, you name it.
All the things.
But there's one last layer we need to explore,
Okay, I'm intrigued.
and it's all about those unspoken rules
Oh,
of workplace etiquette.
the do's and don'ts.
Exactly, because let's be honest, sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest difference.
It's true.
And our source material gets in some really interesting nuances here,
Okay.
especially around email etiquette.
Oh, yeah, email, the double-edged sword of workplace communication.
You can say that again.
It's so convenient, but it's also so easy to make a mistake
Right.
that can damage your professional image.
So true. I remember this one time I accidentally replied all to an email that was, let's just say, not meant for everyone's eyes.
Oof, we've all been there.
Not my proudest moment.
But the good news is our sources offer some really helpful tips for avoiding those email faux pas.
Okay, good.
Like, for example, they emphasize the importance of starting with a professional salutation.
Right.
Dear Mr. or Mrs. last name is always a safe bet.
Yeah.
Unless you're on a first name basis with the person.
Right. And even then, it's probably best to err on the side of formality.
Yeah.
At least until you get a sense of the company culture.
Exactly. And the sources also talk about keeping your emails concise and to the point. No one wants to wade through a wall of text.
So like bullet points are our friends.
Absolutely. And avoid using slang,
Great.
emojis, or excessive exclamation points.
Voted.
You want to project an image of competence and professionalism.
And proofread.
Yes.
Typos and grammatical errors
The worst.
can make you look careless and unprofessional.
So true. Okay, so we've mastered the art of email.
We're on a roll.
Now let's talk about another potential minefield.
Okay.
Meeting etiquette.
Ooh, yes. Meetings, love them or hate them, they're a part of almost every job.
It's true.
And our sources highlight some key things to keep in mind,
Like what?
like punctuality.
Yes.
Arriving on time shows respect for everyone's time and demonstrates your professionalism.
And I think it also shows that you're organized and prepared, which is always a good look.
Right. And once you're in the meeting,
Yeah.
the sources emphasize the importance of active participation.
Okay.
Contribute to the discussion, ask clarifying questions, and offer your insights
Yes.
when appropriate.
But also know when to listen.
Yeah.
Don't dominate the conversation or interrupt others.
It's all about balance.
It's about finding that balance between being engaged and being respectful of others.
And one more thing, put those phones away.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're expecting an urgent call, it's incredibly disrespectful
It is.
to be scrolling through social media or texting during a meeting.
It's like you're saying, I'm not really interested in what you have to say.
Okay, so we've talked about email etiquette and meeting etiquette.
check.
Now let's get into something a little more juicy.
Ooh, tell me more.
Our sources actually touch on the topic of workplace gossip.
Ah, yes, the water cooler whispers. It's inevitable in any workplace.
It really is.
But it's definitely something to navigate carefully.
Because even if you're not the one spreading the gossip,
Yeah,
just listening to it can make you complicit.
that's true. And the sources recommend resisting the temptation to engage.
Okay.
In negative gossip, it can damage relationships and create a toxic work environment.
Instead, try to steer the conversation
Yes.
towards more positive topics. Or, if you feel uncomfortable, politely excuse yourself.
And remember, what you say about others reflects on you. It's always best to err on the side of discretion and kindness.
Okay, gossip averted.
He did it.
Now let's talk about something that's essential for success
Yeah.
in any workplace, but especially in an English-speaking environment. Conflict resolution.
Oh, this is where those communication skills we talked about earlier really come into play.
Yeah.
The sources emphasize approaching conflict with a calm and respectful attitude.
Because getting defensive or emotional is only going to escalate the situation.
Exactly. The key is to listen actively to the other person's perspective. Try to find common ground.
Okay.
And focus on finding a solution that benefits everyone involved.
Avoid personal attacks.
Right.
And emotional outbursts.
Yes.
Remember, it's about addressing the issue, not the person.
And if you can't resolve the conflict on your own,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to involve a neutral third party like a manager or HR representative.
Okay, conflict resolved. We're on a roll.
I know, right?
Now let's touch on one final, but incredibly important
Hit me with it.
aspect of workplace etiquette,
All right.
cultural sensitivity.
This is especially crucial in today's diverse workplaces.
Yeah.
It's about being aware and respectful of different cultural norms, values, and communication styles.
Like, for example, in some cultures, direct eye contact is considered a sign of respect, while in others it can be seen as aggressive or confrontational.
Exactly. And there are so many other nuances to be aware of personal space humor, even the way you give and receive gifts.
So it's really about being mindful, doing
Yeah.
your research, and being willing to adapt your behavior to different cultural contexts.
And if you're ever unsure about something, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
It's better to clarify than to unintentionally offend someone.
That's a great point. Cultural sensitivity is really about fostering an inclusive and respectful work environment
Absolutely.
where everyone feels valued and respected.
Wow, we've covered a ton of ground
We really have,
in this deep dive.
from crafting that perfect resume.
When mastering the art of workplace etiquette,
We've given you a comprehensive toolkit for navigating the English-speaking job market.
we did it.
Remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
So true.
Stay curious, keep learning, And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yes. And most importantly, believe in yourself and your abilities.
Now, before we sign off, we'd love to hear from you. What are some of the most interesting or confusing workplace scenarios you've encountered?
Ooh, good question.
Share your stories and insights with us. We're all ears.
Until next time, happy job hunting.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at idioms for expressing feelings.
Oh yeah, idioms. Those are fun.
Yeah, and I think they can be kind of tricky to learn, especially for people who are, learning English as a second language.
Definitely.
So we're going to try to break them down and make them a little bit easier to understand. And we're going to be using this awesome source material that's organized by emotion.
That's smart.
Yeah, so we'll start with happiness, then we'll move on to sadness, anger, love, and affection, and even embarrassment and shame.
Wow, the whole gamut.
Yeah, the whole emotional roller coaster. So buckle up and get ready for a fun ride.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Ooh.
Okay, so let's dive right in and start with happiness.
Okay.
One of the most common idioms for happiness is over the moon. You know, like, I was over the moon when I got the job.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But where does that even come from? Like, is there really someone living on the moon who's just like super happy all the time?
Uh-huh. Well, some linguists think it might actually be connected to that image of the man on the moon from folklore. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like happiness just launches you right up there with it.
No, never thought of it that way. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so another classic happiness idiom is tickled pink. Like, I was tickled pink when I received that unexpected gift.
It's a cute one.
Yeah, but it kind of sounds a little old-fashioned to me.
You know, it is an older idiom. It actually dates back to the 19th century.
Really?
Yeah. And get this, it used to be tickled pink and blue.
Pink and blue.
Yeah. No one really knows why the blue got dropped, but maybe it
Yeah.
just didn't sound as good.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to another idiom that I feel like I use all the time. On cloud nine.
Oh, yeah, another classic.
Yeah, like I was on cloud nine after my vacation.
It really captures that feeling of pure bliss.
Yeah, like you're just floating on air.
Well, funnily enough, even cloud nine has its roots in something pretty practical, meteorology.
Meteorology, you mean like the weather?
Exactly. Early weather maps used to number cloud formations, and the highest, most impressive type was number 9. Wow, so being on cloud 9 is like being at the top of the weather chart.
Pretty much. It symbolizes peak happiness.
That's amazing. I never knew that.
Yeah, idioms can come from the most unexpected places.
Okay, so we've covered over the moon, tickled pink, and on cloud 9. What other happiness idioms do we have in our source material?
Let's see. We have in high spirits and walking on air.
Ooh, I like walking on air. It really paints a picture.
Yeah, it emphasizes that light, buoyant feeling of intense happiness.
But would you ever use walking on air in a formal setting?
That's a good question. Probably not. It might sound a little too casual.
Yeah, like you wouldn't say, I'm walking on air about this business deal.
Right, exactly. It's all about matching your language to the situation.
So it's kind of like choosing the right outfit for the occasion.
Exactly. You wouldn't wear a ball gown to the grocery store.
True, very true. Okay, so before we move on to sadness, is there anything else we should keep in mind about these happiness idioms?
Well, I think it's important to remember that they often have slightly different shades of meaning.
Oh, like what do you mean?
Well, for example, over the moon implies a more intense, almost ecstatic happiness,
Right.
while tickled pink suggests a gentler, more playful kind of delight.
So it's not just about knowing the definition, it's about understanding the nuance.
Exactly. It's like choosing the right spice to add to your dish.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So we're not just learning words, we're becoming language chefs.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, so now that we've explored the sunny side of things, are you ready to dive into the blue hues of sadness?
Let's do it.
All right, bring on the tissues.
All right, so we're ready to dive into sadness idioms.
Yeah, let's get those tissues ready.
Haha. All right, well, let's start with a really common one, down in the dumps. Like, I've been feeling down in the dumps ever since I lost my job.
Yeah, that one's a classic. But I always wondered, does it actually have anything to do with being in a literal garbage dump?
Uh-huh. That's a good question. Well, some linguists believe it might come from the Dutch word domp.
Domp.
Yeah, it means dull or gloomy, so it's more about that heavy, listless feeling than an actual location. Huh.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's not about being surrounded by trash. It's about feeling like trash.
Pretty much.
Okay, another sadness idiom that uses color is feeling blue.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, but it seems a bit milder than down in the dumps, right?
You're right. Feeling blue usually suggests a more temporary sadness.
Like a passing cloud.
Exactly. While down in the dumps implies something a bit more persistent.
Like a storm cloud.
Yeah, good analogy. And it's interesting how colors can be so powerful in conveying emotions.
Makes me wonder if blue is associated with sadness in other cultures too.
That's a great point. Actually, in some cultures, yellow or even purple are associated with sadness.
Really?
Yeah, it just goes to show how language and culture are so intertwined.
Okay, so we've got 2 shades of blue sadness. What else do we have?
Well, there's a heavy heart.
Oh yeah, like she had a heavy heart after her grandmother passed away.
Exactly. It uses that physical weight metaphor to convey a deep sadness, often associated with loss.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And then we have crying over spilled milk.
Oh yeah, my mom used to say that one all the time.
It's a classic. But it can be a bit controversial, right?
Yeah, like what if the milk was really important?
Haha. Well, the point of the idiom isn't really about the milk. It's about accepting what's happened and moving on.
So don't dwell on the past?
Right. It's about focusing on the future.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the last sadness idiom we have?
Let's see. It's hit rock bottom.
Oh, that one sounds pretty intense.
Yeah. It's definitely reserved for those moments of utter despair and hopelessness.
Like when you feel like there's nowhere lower to go.
Exactly. It's the emotional equivalent of being at the very bottom of a deep, dark pit.
Okay, well, we've certainly explored the full spectrum of sadness with these idioms.
Yeah, from those fleeting blue moments to the crushing weight of despair.
I'm ready for a little pick-me-up now.
Yeah.
How about we move on to some more heartwarming idioms?
Sounds good to me. Let's explore the language of love and affection.
Okay, I'm feeling a little warmer and fuzzier already.
Or,
All right, so we've made it through the ups and downs, the highs and lows of all these emotion idioms.
yeah, quite a range, right?
Yeah. And you know what I think is really cool? How these idioms, they really add a lot of like personality to the language.
Definitely. They're like little bursts of color.
Exactly. It's not just like saying I'm happy. It's like I'm on cloud 9.
Right. It's so much more expressive.
Yeah. And it's not just about memorizing a bunch of phrases either. It's about understanding like the nuances,
Oh, for sure. The origin.
the context, all that stuff.
Yeah, like you wouldn't use kick the bucket to describe someone winning the lottery.
No, definitely not. That'd be a bit confusing.
Yeah, so it's about choosing the right idiom for the right situation.
It's like having a whole toolkit of expressions.
Exactly. And the more you use them, the more comfortable you'll become.
Practice makes perfect.
Exactly. And you know what? Even if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
That's right.
Just laugh it off.
Yeah, language is all about having fun.
And experimenting.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I guess I just hope that people will walk away from this with a new appreciation for idioms.
Yeah.
They're really powerful tools for communication.
And don't forget, language is always changing.
Oh, for sure.
So keep your ears open. You might hear some brand new idioms out there.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe you'll even invent one yourself.
That's a great thought. Okay, well, that about wraps up our deep dive into idioms for expressing feelings.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
And we'll catch you next time for another linguistic adventure. Okay, have you ever noticed, like, how often we have to introduce ourselves?
All the time. Right.
Yeah, but it can be so awkward.
Oh, absolutely. Especially, meeting new people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what do you even say? And it can be even harder when you're trying to do it in English if it's, not your first language.
Right. First impressions are everything, though. So we really should get this right.
Which is why this deep dive is perfect. We found this guide, and it's got some really good tips. So let's jump right in.
Yeah, let's do it. What I found really interesting is that it doesn't even start with, like, what you say.
Wait, really? I was all ready to, practicing my elevator pitch and all that.
Nope. First things first. Nonverbal cues.
Like, what? Body language and stuff?
Exactly. Smiling and eye contact. The source is really big on those.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
A smile can make you seem more approachable.
It's more than that, though. It's like, when you meet someone and their smile just kind of lights up the room?
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
It's that kind of energy. This guide talks about the Duchenne smile, which is a specific type of smile that uses the muscles around your eyes.
So it's not just a fake smile, it's got to be genuine.
Exactly. And there's research showing that a Duchenne smile makes you seem more trustworthy,
Oh, wow. So like in a job interview, a good smile could be a huge advantage.
Oh, totally. Okay, so you've got the smile down, good eye contact. Now we can talk about the actual words.
Finally. Lay it on me.
Start with the basics. Your name, where you're from, what you do. But then...
There's a but then.
Okay, I'm intrigued. The guide suggests adding one interesting fact about yourself.
Ooh, I like that. That's how you stand out, right?
Yeah. It's all about making yourself memorable.
But what kind of interesting fact? Like, I feel like this could go wrong easily.
It definitely could. The key is authenticity. It's got to be something genuinely you, not just something you think sounds impressive.
So, like, I like to read is probably not going to cut it.
Unless you're reading, like, ancient scrolls in their original language, probably not. Think about hobbies, passions, maybe a funny story that's short and sweet.
So it's like a little sneak peek into your personality. Okay, I'm getting this. So we've got the smile, the basics, the interesting fact. What's next?
Now, this might seem a little counterintuitive,
Whoa.
but the guide is big on politeness, like, it's nice to meet you, or how are you today, kind of stuff.
Okay, but how is that going to make me seem confident? It seems so basic.
It's subtle. Think about it. If you're nervous, you might rush through the intro, right? Sound a little abrupt.
Yeah, that's totally me.
But taking a moment to be polite, it shows you're comfortable, respectful.
So it's like, even though the words themselves are simple, they're sending a message about how I'm feeling.
Exactly. You're present in the moment, not just trying to get the intro over with.
Okay, I can see that. I never thought about it that way before.
It can make a big difference, especially if you're meeting someone for the first time. Now, the next part is where things get really interesting. This is where we tailor the introduction based on the context.
Context,
Yeah.
like who I'm talking to and why.
Exactly. The guide talks about focusing on either your goals or your interests.
Okay, so goals. When would I want to lead with those?
Like, imagine you're in a job interview.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. You want to seem ambitious.
Exactly. So instead of just saying your job title, you might say something like, I'm passionate about whatever your field is, and I'm really excited to see how I could contribute to your team.
That's way better than just, hi, I'm your name, I'm an accountant.
Right.
Yeah.
You're showing them where you want to go, not just where you've been.
Okay, so flip side.
Yeah.
When would I talk about my interests?
Think more like a social setting, a party, networking event.
Where you actually want to have a conversation with people.
Right. So I'm an accountant isn't going to be a great opener there.
No kidding. I can already feel the awkward silence.
But what if you said something like, I spend my days crunching numbers, but my real passion is restoring vintage motorcycles. I'm actually working on a 60s Triumph right now.
Okay, now that's a conversation starter.
Right. It shows there's more to you than just your job. People connect with that.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to introductions. It's not just about getting information across, it's about creating a connection.
Exactly. Okay, ready for the next tip.
Hit me.
End your intro with a question.
Oh, good one. But not like a yes-no question, right? Those are conversation killers.
You got it. The guide is all about open-ended questions.
So instead of do you like movies, I should ask, what kind of movies are you into?
Exactly. It invites a real response, plus it shifts the focus to the other person.
Which takes the pressure off me. But there's got to be more to it than that, right? Like, what's the psychology behind it?
Well, think about it. When you ask a good open-ended question, you're giving them a chance to share something about themselves.
And people like talking about themselves.
Most do. It's a subtle way of making them feel good, and it encourages them to engage with you.
So I'm making them feel good. They're more likely to want to keep talking to me. Smart.
It's all about those subtle cues. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've got the smile, the basics, the interesting fact, politeness, tailoring to the context, and ending with a question.
Phew. My head's spinning, but in a good way. It's amazing how many things I was doing wrong before.
We all do it, but there's one more crucial piece to this puzzle.
I have a feeling I know what it is. Practice.
You got it. Even with the best material, you got to practice to make it feel natural.
Okay, so that's what we'll tackle next time.
Exactly. We'll get into some specific strategies for practicing introductions so you can nail them every time.
So we've got all these great tips for introductions, but I don't know about you, but I get nervous. Like I can totally see myself fumbling over my words in the moment.
Oh yeah, me too. That's why practice is so important.
Right. But it's not just about memorizing a script, is it?
Not at all. It's more about, really getting comfortable with the ideas, making them second nature.
Like building muscle memory, but for talking.
Yeah, exactly. It's like learning to dance or something. At first, you're all stiff and awkward, but the more you practice,
The more you just kind of flow with it.
Yeah, exactly. You're not even thinking about the steps anymore. You're just feeling the music.
Okay, so how do we actually practice this? I mean, talking to the mirror only gets you so far.
It depends what you're prepping for. Like, for a job interview, role-playing can be super helpful.
Oh, right. Like get a friend to be the interviewer, put you on the spot.
Yeah, exactly. That way you get used to the pressure. Oh, and another good one is to record yourself.
Ugh. I hate listening to recordings of myself.
They know it's painful. But you can really hear things you wouldn't notice otherwise.
Like all my ums and ahs, probably.
Yeah, those filler words. You can work on smoothing them out.
It's true. I've done that for presentations at work, and it really helps. Wait, you know what else could be good? Maybe, like, hiring a coach.
Oh, yeah, there are totally coaches who specialize in this kind of stuff.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I had no idea. But it makes sense. It's like we invest in learning so many other skills. Why not communications?
Right. It's so important. But okay, for more everyday stuff, like just meeting new people, you can practice in lower stakes situations.
Lower stakes.
Yeah, like chat with the barista at your coffee shop or the cashier at the store.
Just get used to striking up conversations.
Exactly. It's good practice. Plus, you might brighten someone's day.
Okay. I like that. It's less scary than like a networking event.
Right. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
I'm starting to get this. It's really a whole mindset shift, isn't it? It's not just about the words. It's about how you approach those first interactions.
Yeah, for sure. It's about showing up authentically and confidently.
Right. Okay. Let's do a quick recap of everything we've talked about today.
Okay, so starting with nonverbal cues, the Duchenne smile, good eye contact.
Makes you seem approachable and trustworthy.
Yeah. Then we layer in those basic details. Name, where you're from, what you do.
But then the magic happens. We add that one interesting fact to make ourselves stand out.
And don't forget the politeness. It might seem basic, but it actually sends a really important message.
Right, like you're calm, you're respectful, you're not just rushing to get it over with.
Exactly. And then, depending on the situation, we highlight either our goals or our interests.
Goals for job interviews, to show ambition, interests for social settings, to spark a conversation.
Exactly. And to finish strong, that open-ended question.
Keeps the conversation flowing and makes the other person feel good. It's genius.
And don't forget about practice.
Oh, yeah, I got to practice, practice, practice.
Whether it's role-playing, recording ourselves, or just chatting with people in everyday situations.
This has been so helpful. I'm actually starting to feel excited about introductions now, not just terrified.
That's great. And earlier you mentioned something about going beyond spoken introductions.
Oh, yeah, you said these ideas could be applied to like online profiles and stuff. I want to hear more about that.
We'll dive into all that next time.
Yeah, so it's not just about like what you say when you meet someone face to face.
Exactly. It's bigger than that.
So like my LinkedIn profile, that little about me section that I always struggle with.
Think of that as an introduction too.
Okay. So instead of just listing my skills and experience.
You can use those same principles we've been talking about. The interesting fact, maybe even ending with a question that encourages people to connect with you.
Ooh, that's clever. Like what kind of question?
Maybe something like, I'm really passionate about mentoring new designers, so if you're just starting out in the field, feel free to reach out.
Oh, I like that. It's inviting, but also shows what I care about.
Right. And it could spark conversations, lead to collaborations.
Yeah, I'm seeing my whole online presence differently now. It's like every interaction is a chance to make a first impression.
That's a great way to think about it. And don't forget email introductions too.
Oh, yeah. Those can be awkward.
Instead of just, hi, I'm so-and-so, attached as my resume.
It's news?
Right. You can briefly mention a shared interest or how your skills connect to their needs.
So you're standing out from all those other generic emails.
Exactly. It all comes back to being memorable and showing your personality.
This has been so eye-opening. I feel like I've got a whole new arsenal of communication tools now.
That's the goal. Remember, though, confidence takes practice.
Yeah, it's not like I'll suddenly be amazing at all of this overnight.
Of course not. But the more you use these strategies, the more natural they'll feel. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Experiment.
Yeah, like try different approaches and see what works best for you. Every situation is a little different, right?
That's true. And I guess, like, the more I practice, the less I'll overthink it and the more I can just be myself.
Exactly. That's the key. Authenticity. People connect with that. When you're genuine, it shines through.
Okay, I'm going to try to remember that. No more hiding behind generic intros.
That's the spirit. Go out there and rock those first impressions.
I will. This has been such a fantastic deep dive. Thank you so much for all these insights.
My pleasure. It's been fun exploring all this with you. And hey, remember, the more you practice, the more confident you'll become. And that confidence will spread.
Oh, I like that. So by being more confident in ourselves, we might actually help other people feel more confident too.
Exactly. It's like a ripple effect. So go out there, make those connections, and watch the confidence grow. All right, so are you ready to like really level up those conversation skills? Today, we're going to dive deep into how to start conversations. You know, the kind that don't just fizzle out after, just a couple of awkward exchanges.
Right.
And so get our source today. It's like, it gives you like 25 questions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But these aren't your typical like, small talk questions.
Okay.
They're like designed to help you really connect with people like on a deeper level.
Okay. So
Right.
not just like, how's the weather?
Exactly. Like, whether you're at, networking event or a party or even just, chatting with someone new at the coffee shop.
I really like how our source today breaks these questions down into 5 categories.
Oh, yeah.
It's like having a roadmap, for all these different conversational situations.
I like that, a roadmap.
Yeah. So you've got like your general questions, those are perfect for the initial icebreakers.
Uh-huh.
And then there are ones specifically for social settings, travel, and hobbies, work or school, and even like fun personal preferences.
Okay. I totally get the whole like categorization thing.
Right.
But like, how does asking someone about their favorite hobby actually lead to a deeper connection?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions with these kinds of questions.
Oh, I totally hear you.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. Instead of like asking a closed-ended question like, do you have any hobbies?
Right.
Which, you'll probably just get a yes or no.
Yeah.
You could ask something like, what project are you most excited about right now?
Ooh.
And suddenly you're not just asking about hobbies.
Yeah.
You're inviting them to share what they're passionate about.
Oh.
And that's where the magic happens.
I like that it's like shifting from a checklist to like uncovering what makes someone tick.
Yeah.
And I guess the different categories help you tailor your approach depending on the situation, right?
Exactly. So let's say you're at a networking event.
Okay.
You could try a question from the work or school category, like what's the most interesting challenge you faced in your work recently? It's way more engaging than just asking, what do you do?
What's funny is I actually tried that question at a networking event last week.
Oh, yeah.
And the person I was talking to, they totally lit up. They told me this whole story about a project they were working on.
Oh, wow.
And it turned into a really fascinating conversation. We even ended up exchanging contact info.
See?
Yeah.
It works.
It really does.
It's all about, finding those subtle ways to unlock deeper conversations.
Right.
And our source emphasizes that it's not just about the questions themselves.
Right.
It's about how you deliver them.
Oh, right, right. The source talks about smiling, being friendly, and most importantly, not worrying about making mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that's something we all struggle with.
Oh, for sure.
Especially in new situations,
Right.
We get so caught up in trying to sound perfect
Right.
that we forget to just be ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's such a crucial point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about flawless execution.
Yeah.
It's about genuine connection.
Right.
People can tell when you're genuinely interested, even if you stumble over your words a bit.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like that saying, people might forget like what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Right.
I think that totally applies to conversations too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all about creating a welcoming space, where people feel like they can open up.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of opening up, the source also talks about like the power of open-ended questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of curious, do you have like a favorite example from those 25 questions that really shows this?
Let me think.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that pops into my mind is, what's your dream destination?
Okay.
It's from the travel and hobbies category,
Yeah.
but I think it goes way beyond just travel. It gets at people's like hopes and dreams, their sense of adventure.
I see what you mean.
It can spark a conversation about what truly excites them.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's not just about where they want to go on vacation. It's like a window into their inner world.
Exactly.
And you could like adapt that to other areas too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's a skill you'd love to learn someday?
Exactly. It invites them to share something they might not normally talk about.
Yeah, I feel like I get stuck asking the same old questions sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how was your weekend? Or
Yeah.
what are you working on? It's like I'm on autopilot.
Yeah.
And the conversation never goes anywhere interesting.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall back on those default questions, especially when you're feeling nervous.
Right.
But what I love about this source is that it gives you a way to break out of that rut.
Yeah.
To think more carefully about your questions and what you really want to learn about the other person.
So true. It's not about like memorizing a script or something. It's
Right.
about having a strategy.
Exactly.
Oh, and the source also mentions active listening.
Yes.
What does that mean to you, like when you're starting conversations?
Well, for me, active listening is about being present.
Okay.
It's not just hearing their words, but truly absorbing, what they're saying, paying attention to their body language, and responding in a way that shows you're engaged.
So it's not just about asking the right questions.
Right.
It's about making the other person feel heard.
Exactly. You're creating a space where they feel understood.
Okay, so it's like building a bridge of understanding.
Yes, I like that.
Each question is like a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And active listening is what holds it all together.
I love that analogy. And it reminds us that conversation is a two-way street.
Right. It's about giving and receiving, asking and listening.
Exactly. And when both people are present and engaged,
Yeah.
that's when you get those real moments of connection.
Those aha moments.
Yes, you don't get those from small talk.
Okay, so I'm sold. These 25 questions are way more powerful than I thought.
I know, right?
But I gotta ask.
Yeah.
Do you think there are times when a simple, direct question is better than an open-ended one?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And you're right. There are times when a direct question is more appropriate.
Okay.
Like if you need a specific piece of information or you're trying to clarify something.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, when you're trying to build rapport,
Right.
open-ended questions are the way to go.
Makes sense. You got to use the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And sometimes it's about being playful with your questions, too.
No, yeah.
Don't be afraid to add a little humor,
The source has this question in the fun category that always cracks me up.
Oh, yeah?
It's, what's the most embarrassing song you secretly love?
Oh, that's a good one.
I know, right?
It's guaranteed to get people laughing.
And sharing stories.
Yeah, it's a great way to break the ice.
Exactly. It shows you don't take yourself too seriously.
Right, because in the end, conversations are about connecting with other people.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best way to do that is to just let loose and have fun.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like we've covered so much in this deep dive.
I know, right?
Like my whole view on how to start conversations has totally shifted.
It's pretty cool how something so simple, like asking the right questions,
Right.
can make such a big difference in how we connect with people.
Totally. So as we wrap up here,
Yeah.
what are the main takeaways you'd want our listeners to remember?
Well, first of all, those categories.
Yeah.
Remember those having a mental toolkit of questions for all those different situations?
Yeah.
That can really help you feel more confident.
I like that.
No matter what the conversation throws at you.
It's like having a secret weapon for those moments, when you just go blank.
Exactly. And don't forget about the magic of open-ended questions.
Oh, right.
Those are key to really getting those deep conversations going,
Yeah. It's about asking questions that get people to share their stories and their passions.
Yes. Their unique perspectives.
And of course, we can't forget about active listening.
Well, that's so important.
It's like the glue that holds it all together.
Yeah, it lets you build those real connections.
It's amazing how much we can learn about someone when we really listen to what they have to say.
I know, it's true. So before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
Think about the last time you had a really great conversation. The kind that you just felt so engaged in.
Yeah.
What made it so memorable? Was it a certain question? Or the way the other person listened?
Yeah.
When we think back on our own experiences,
Right.
we can learn even more about how to have amazing conversations.
That's such a good point. We're always learning,
We are.
So go out there, experiment with these questions, and most importantly, have fun connecting with people.
Happy conversing. Okay, so get ready for this, because today we're taking a deep dive into something we all do every day: American English conversations.
You'd think it would be pretty simple by now, right?
Exactly. I mean, we do it all the time. But our source material this time, it's actually a U.S. Department of State publication, and it was designed to help people learning English.
Oh, interesting.
And going through it, I realized it's kind of like having a cheat sheet for all those little cues and expressions we use in conversations without even thinking.
That's so true. We often take our native language for granted, don't we?
We do. But when you actually stop and think about it, there's this whole world of cultural nuances that really affect how we talk to each other.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the basics. Introductions, small talk, the stuff we all do every day. I know I've definitely had those awkward moments, like trying to figure out the right way to greet someone.
Oh, yeah.
And this guide, it goes into a lot of detail, like how to tell a formal greeting from an informal one and how things change depending on the time of day.
Makes sense.
But what really surprised me? The book actually spends a lot of time talking about the handshake.
The handshake.
Yeah, a firm handshake. It's fascinating how much emphasis we put on that in American culture.
It's true. A firm handshake lasting about 2 to 3 seconds, that's like the gold standard. It makes people feel like you're confident and trustworthy.
I know, right? It's amazing how much we read into this simple gesture. It's almost like a nonverbal contract, establishing a connection.
I like that, a nonverbal contract.
But you know what? I'm starting to think maybe I've been misjudging people all these years based on their handshakes.
Well, it's certainly something to be aware of, but remember, different cultures have different norms.
That's a good point. So, okay, we've covered the handshake, but here's another little detail that I found fascinating. Remember, this guide's for English language learners.
Right.
And they point out that when Americans say, "and you," in a casual greeting, they usually use a rising intonation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like, "How are you?" And you.
Like that.
And it's not just about being polite, apparently, that rising intonation. It actually shows that you're genuinely interested in what the other person has to say.
Oh, I see. It's those little vocal cues that often convey more meaning than the words themselves.
Exactly. And it made me realize, wow, there's so much we communicate without even realizing it. Just by changing the way we say something, we can make a huge difference in how we connect with others.
It's like we're fine-tuning our communication to create a more authentic connection.
That's a great way to put it. All right, so we've tackled the initial handshake and the subtle art of "and you." But let's say you're brand new in town and you need to ask for directions.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, what I found interesting in this section is how Americans tend to phrase those requests.
Yeah.
Like instead of just saying, "tell me how to get to,"
Right.
they'll often soften it by adding "could you" at the beginning.
Could you tell me how to get to? Yeah.
Exactly. And it's a way of being polite, showing that you respect the other person's time and knowledge.
You're not just demanding information. You're asking for help.
Exactly. And there's this emphasis on empathy, too. The guide gives this example. Imagine someone new in town, totally lost, asking for directions.
I can picture it.
And the person giving directions, they might say something like, "Oh, I know how you feel. It can be confusing around here."
That's so true. That's classic American communication, trying to build rapport, creating a sense of like a shared experience.
Exactly. It's not just about giving information. It's about connecting on a human level, too. Yeah, really, when you think about it, that's the essence of good communication, isn't it?
Absolutely. Those little cues like using "could you" and expressing empathy, they make all the difference.
You know what else is all about connecting? Ordering food. I'm always fascinated by how we try to be polite, but also efficient, especially when it's busy.
Oh, yeah, it's a delicate balance. You don't want to hold things up, but you also don't want to sound rude.
Right. And the guide actually talks about this, how American waiters often use phrases like, "Can I start you off with something to drink?" Or, "Are you ready to order, or do you need a few minutes?"
They're trying to keep things moving, but also giving you space to decide.
Exactly. And something I noticed, they often use "can" instead of "may I," which seems a bit more casual but still polite. Is that just an American thing, or is that more common in English overall?
You know, that's a good observation. "May I" is grammatically correct. It's considered more formal. But "can I" is definitely becoming more common, especially in casual settings.
So it's like in those everyday situations, we're kind of choosing efficiency and friendliness over being super formal.
Exactly. And it's not just the words, it's how you say them too. The guide emphasizes like enunciating clearly and using a friendly tone. It all contributes to a positive experience.
Makes sense, especially in a noisy restaurant. Now imagine you're not ordering food, but you're at the doctor's office trying to explain what's wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about you, but I always have trouble describing my symptoms clearly.
It can be tough. Even in your native language, sometimes it's hard to put those feelings into words.
Right. And here's where the guide has this surprisingly useful tip. It suggests using "a" before each symptom you mention.
Really?
Yeah. So instead of just saying, "I have a cough, sore throat, headache."
You'd say a cough, a sore throat, a headache.
Exactly. It seems like a small thing, but apparently it adds this sense of clarity, like you're presenting a structured list.
It makes you sound more informed, even if you're not a doctor yourself.
That's a good point. It's like a simple grammar tweak that could actually make a difference in how the doctor understands you. All right, let's switch gears from the practical to the fun stuff. Let's talk about pastimes and hobbies.
Okay, now we're talking. This is where the guide gets into those colorful expressions, idioms, the ones that add that informal, fun flavor to conversations.
Like shoot some hoops instead of just play basketball. I always love those kinds of expressions, but I can see how they would be confusing for someone learning English.
Oh, absolutely. Idioms are tricky because their meaning isn't always literal, but they're so important. They give you insights into a culture's values, its sense of humor.
So it's more than just sounding fluent. It's about understanding American culture on a deeper level.
Exactly. And the guide, it does a good job of explaining those tricky expressions and giving examples.
You know, another word that caught my attention was just. It seems so simple, but it has so many different meanings depending on how you use it.
Oh yeah, just can be tricky.
The guide points out that you can use it for emphasis, like, I just love that movie, or to talk about something that happened recently, like, I just finished reading that book.
It's a word that can add a lot of nuance to your speech, but you have to understand how it works. It's a good reminder that even those simple words can have hidden depths.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. I was really intrigued by the section on expressing surprise or excitement.
Oh, the language of emotions. That's always interesting.
It is. And the guide points out that Americans often use really simple phrases for this, like, what a, followed by an adjective.
What a beautiful cat.
Exactly. What a delicious meal. It seems so basic, but I never really thought about it before.
It's fascinating how we use those simple structures to convey really strong feelings.
It's like a lot of our communication is driven by these subconscious patterns that we don't even realize we're using.
Exactly. And when we become aware of those patterns, we can communicate so much more effectively.
Okay, so let's talk about something that can be a little more stressful.
Yeah.
Dealing with emergencies.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole different ballgame.
I can't even imagine how tough it would be for someone who's not fluent in English.
Right. It's a high-pressure situation, and you need to be able to communicate clearly.
And the guide does a good job here. It gives you practical phrases for things like calling for help. Like, I'd like to report a car accident, or it looks like a man is hurt.
And even more important, it emphasizes staying calm and giving clear, concise information.
Even when you're panicking, right?
Right.
And it points out something I never would have thought of. The importance of using the simple past tense when describing what happened.
Oh, interesting. Like how?
So instead of saying, that car is running a red light, you'd say, that car ran a red light.
Ah, I see. It creates that sense of urgency, makes it clear that something just happened.
Exactly. So even in a crisis, grammar still matters. Okay, let's move on to something a bit more mundane, but still important. Errands.
The post office, the grocery store, those everyday places where we put our conversational skills to the test.
And the guide breaks down a lot of common phrases we use in those settings. Things like, I need to mail this package, or how much will that be?
You know what I found interesting? The guide talks about how we use intonation, especially when we're presenting choices.
Oh, like at the post office when they ask, do you want to send it express or priority?
Exactly. That rising intonation on or, it signals to the customer that they have a choice to make.
It's like the subtle cue that guides the whole interaction.
Right, and it shows how important intonation is for clear communication, even for something as simple as buying a stamp.
It's amazing how much we do with our voices without even thinking about it.
It really is a dance, isn't it? All these little signals we send and receive just by changing our tone of voice.
Okay, let's talk shopping. I'm always curious about how language plays a role in persuasion and decision-making.
Especially in America, where shopping is almost like a national pastime.
Right, and the guide gives some examples of typical phrases salespeople use, like, can I help you find anything? Or, let's see, here's a nice one.
What struck me was the emphasis on trying things on. Like, it seems obvious, but the guide actually points out that try it on is a key phrase in American shopping culture.
It's almost like a ritual, right? You have to engage with the product before you decide if you want it.
It reflects that emphasis on individual choice and personal satisfaction.
Now, how about weddings? I bet those are full of unique expressions and traditions.
Oh, absolutely. They're a whole world of their own. And the guide gives us a peek into those conversations with phrases like, doesn't the bride look beautiful? Or they're planning on tying the knot.
I love those idiomatic expressions like tying the knot. They add such a nice touch to these special occasions.
And they often tell you something about a culture's history and values. Tying the knot, it evokes that image of two lives being bound together, which is the whole point of a wedding.
It's amazing how much meaning can be packed into a single phrase.
It really is.
The guide also points out that Americans often say dates in a specific way, like 14th for May 14th.
Another one of those little details that can make a big difference in sounding natural.
Speaking of sounding natural, let's talk about giving advice. We all do it, whether we're experts or not.
It's true. Everyone's got an opinion.
And the guide gives some examples of phrases for giving advice, like, I think it's time for a change, or trust me, take the job.
It's interesting because some of those phrases use command forms like take the job or go for it.
Right. It seems kind of counterintuitive to be so direct when you're giving advice. But the guide suggests that in informal conversations, it can actually come across as encouraging and supportive.
It shows how important context is. A direct command, said with the right tone of voice, can be much more effective than a hesitant suggestion.
It all comes back to that idea. Communication is about so much more than just the words themselves. It's about the whole package. The context, the intention, the relationship between the speakers. You know, it's amazing how language can be so straightforward and yet so nuanced at the same time.
It really is.
Before we finish up, there's one more situation from this guide that I think we've all been in, making decisions. You know, like planning a trip or even just picking a restaurant for dinner.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling. Sometimes it feels like there are too many choices.
Exactly. And the guide actually goes into how Americans tend to navigate those situations. Like, they might suggest alternatives with a phrase like, help at the beach.
Right.
Or if they're not sure, they might say, I need to do some research first.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is how those phrases kind of soften the whole decision-making process. It's not about this is what I want and we're doing it. It's more like, let's explore the options together.
It's more collaborative.
Exactly. And it reflects, I think, that American emphasis on flexibility and being open to different ideas.
Yeah, I see that.
Oh, and there's this phrase that I think is so classic American. Make up my mind. It seems so simple, but it really captures that feeling of like weighing different options before committing to a choice.
It's like we're acknowledging that internal struggle.
Yeah, exactly. And it reflects that idea of individual autonomy. You know, you have the freedom to change your mind.
Right.
Okay, let's talk transportation. The guide gives a bunch of examples of phrases people use when they're talking about getting around. Things like, let's take the bus, or it's impossible to find a taxi during rush hour.
Oh, yeah, rush hour is a nightmare.
I know. And what's funny is the guide even captures that feeling of just missing the bus. You know, that, oh no, we just missed it.
I can totally picture that.
It's like those little moments of everyday frustration that connect us all.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we can't forget about technology. Specifically, those moments when our phones just don't cooperate.
Uh-oh, the bane of modern existence.
The guide has a whole section on dealing with tech troubles, with phrases like, the phone is cutting out, or that classic, can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, that one's a classic.
It also emphasizes how important it is to speak clearly, especially when you're on the phone, and to ask for repetition if you need it.
That makes sense.
And I love how the guide gives you different ways to ask someone to repeat themselves. It's not just, can you say that again, over and over. You can say, did you say to pick up ink? Or could you repeat that, please?
Those little variations make you sound more natural and less robotic.
Exactly. It's about being aware of those communication breakdowns and working together to make sure the message gets through.
That's a really important point.
And, you know, it brings us back to what we've been talking about this whole time. Language is so much bigger than just words on a page. It's about connecting with another human being, understanding their perspective, and navigating all the little complexities that come with that.
You said it perfectly. We've been looking at these everyday conversations, and we've uncovered so many subtle cues and expressions that shape how Americans communicate.
And it's those little details that can make a huge difference, not just in understanding the language, but in understanding the culture, too. So to our listener, as you continue on your journey of learning and mastering American English, keep in mind that this deep dive has just scratched the surface. Keep practicing, stay curious, and don't be afraid to embrace those little nuances that make this language so rich and rewarding. You never know what linguistic adventures are waiting for you out there.
All right, so you want to really take your English to the next level, right? I mean, beyond just the basics to where you can handle anything.
Exactly. It's like going from, just getting by to really being able to express yourself, you know, with nuance.
Yeah, nuance. So in this deep dive, that's exactly what we're doing, exploring words and phrases that most learners might not know. It's like unlocking a secret code to fluency.
It is. It's like having this whole extra layer of language at your disposal. And it's not just about sounding smart.
Right. It's about understanding those subtle things, how people really use English in everyday life.
Yeah, and how you can use it too. Like imagine being able to perfectly describe that person who, they just drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Or you're in this tricky situation and you just need the right phrase to nail it.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to uncover today, words and phrases to deal with all sorts of situations, from social stuff to like really expressing your feelings. We've got idioms, slang, the whole shebang.
I'm excited to dive in.
Me too. Okay, so where should we start? How about those tricky social situations? You know, like you meet someone new and you want to describe them, but you don't want to just say nice or mean.
Right, because those are just so basic, and sometimes they don't really capture the whole picture.
Yeah, so let's get more specific. For example, one word that stood out to me from our research was dog's body. What do you make of that one?
Dog's body, it's not just a servant, right? It's more like you're the one stuck with all the crappy jobs, the ones nobody else wants.
Yeah, like you're at the bottom of the totem pole.
Exactly. So it really highlights a power dynamic, you know, where someone's being taken advantage of.
Ooh, I feel like we've all been there at some point in our lives. Okay, what about this phrase, off the record? Now, I always think of gossip when I hear that.
It's really gossip. It's like you're sharing this juicy secret, but you make it clear, hey, this stays between us.
Right. Total confidentiality.
But, and this is important, it also has this serious side, especially in professional settings.
Oh, yeah, like if someone says off the record, I think, and then they tell you something sensitive.
Exactly. It's like they're giving you this inside scoop, but they don't want to be officially quoted. High stakes.
So it's all about context with that one, understanding what off the record really means in the moment. Okay, here's one that I think we can all relate to rub someone up the wrong way.
Yes, those people who just have a knack for annoying us.
Sometimes, without even trying, right?
Oh, absolutely. But sometimes it's intentional. You know, they're doing it on purpose.
Interesting. But even if it's unintentional, it's still important to understand why someone rubs us the wrong way, right?
Yeah, because it could be a personality clash, maybe different communication styles.
So maybe it's not that they're a bad person, just that we don't quite mesh well.
Right. And that's where understanding these subtle social cues can really help. Okay, so we've got those tricky personalities down. Now let's move on to something a bit more fun. Idioms.
Oh yeah, I love idioms. They're like little puzzles that paint these vivid pictures.
Exactly. And they add so much color to your language, making it more interesting and engaging.
All right, so let's crack open one of these puzzles. What about clutching at straws? It sounds kind of desperate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Think about it like this. You're in a really tough situation. You've tried everything, and now you're just grabbing at anything, even if it's a long shot.
Like applying for jobs you're totally unqualified for, or trying to fix a relationship that's clearly over.
Exactly. Clutching at straws. It's that last-ditch effort when all else has failed. And we've all been there at some point, right?
Yeah, totally. It's a universal human experience. Okay, here's another one making a mockery of. That's not just a simple complaint, is it?
No, it's more intense, like you're saying. This is so wrong, it's almost laughable.
Yeah, like it completely undermines the whole point of something.
Right. Like imagine a rule is supposed to make things fair, but then someone finds a loophole and uses it to their advantage. You could say they're making a mockery of the whole system.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, I'm loving these idioms. What else do we have?
Well, how about we spice things up a bit with some slang?
Oh yeah, slang. It's like the secret handshake of fluency.
It is. It adds that informality, that sense of, like, being in the know.
Okay, hit me with a good one. What's on our slang list?
How about gobsmacked? It's a fantastic word for expressing total astonishment.
Gobsmacked. I like it. So, like, if you see something totally unexpected, something that just blows you away.
Exactly. Like you're speechless, your jaw is on the floor.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try to use gobsmacked this week. But, like, with all slang, it's got to be the right time and place, right?
Oh, absolutely. Context is key. You wouldn't use gobsmacked in a formal meeting, but it'd be perfect with friends.
So it's all about being streetwise with your slang choices.
Exactly. And being streetwise is more than just knowing slang. It's about having that awareness of your surroundings, that social intelligence to navigate different situations.
Like knowing when to speak up, when to stay quiet, when to blend in, when to stand out.
It's that sixth sense that keeps you safe and helps you thrive in any environment. Okay, so we've covered some social situations, delved into idioms, and even dipped our toes into the slang pool.
I feel like my English brain is getting a serious workout. What else is on our vocabulary adventure today?
Well, we've only just scratched the surface. There's a whole world of nuanced words waiting to be explored, from describing those tricky in-between feelings to uncovering the power dynamics hidden within everyday language.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. I can't wait to delve into that. But for now, let's pause here and let all this awesome vocabulary sink in. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into advanced everyday English.
See you soon.
Welcome back. I'm really enjoying this, just diving into these words and phrases that we use all the time but don't always think about deeply. Me too. It's amazing how many layers of meaning there are to uncover, even in those seemingly simple, everyday words. Before we took a little pause, you mentioned words that describe those tricky feelings, the ones that are hard to pin down. I'm really curious about that. What kind of words are we talking about here?
Well, think about those times when you're not exactly happy or sad, but somewhere in between,
Yeah.
Like maybe you're feeling a bit uneasy or perhaps a little jaded.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Uneasy, like that feeling of apprehension. Not quite fear, but not exactly comfortable either.
Exactly. One of our sources describes uneasy as a feeling of being unsure, fearful, or anxious. They even give this example of someone feeling uneasy about hiring a new employee because they came across as a bit cocky in the interview.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you have this gut feeling that something's not quite right, but you can't put your finger on it.
And that's why it's so important to pay attention to those subtle feelings, those uneasy vibes, because they can often be warning signs. What about jaded? Does that word resonate with you at all?
Jaded? It's like when you've seen it all before, nothing really excites you anymore.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Like you're tired, almost cynical, because you've been disappointed too many times.
One of our sources talks about feeling jaded from having to catch up on a backlog of paperwork. We've all been there, right?
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of just being drained and unmotivated, like, what's the point?
Exactly. Okay, so moving on from those tricky emotions, let's look at words that describe people's personalities, those character traits that really make them who they are. One word that jumped out at me from our research was pompous.
Ooh, pompous. Not a very flattering word, is it?
Definitely not. It's like that person who thinks they're so much better than everyone else.
Yeah, and they love to show off their supposed superiority, right? Like using big words just to sound intelligent, even if it confuses everyone else.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst. One of our sources even calls a politician a pompous fool for giving this long-winded speech about overseas trade.
Wow, that's a pretty strong opinion. It suggests that the writer thinks this politician is completely out of touch, more focused on their own ego than actually helping people.
It's amazing how one word can convey so much, isn't it? Okay, how about cocky? Is that similar to pompous?
Cocky is definitely in the same family as pompous, but it has a slightly different vibe. It's more about that unfounded confidence, that swaggering, know-it-all attitude that can be really annoying.
Like that person who walks into a room like they own the place, even though they haven't really earned it.
Exactly. And, one of our sources mentioned someone coming across as cocky in a job interview, which actually made the interviewer uneasy.
What do you think that is? I mean, isn't confidence a good thing?
It is, but there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness. Cockiness can be a sign of insecurity, like you're trying too hard to impress. And it can also make people question your ability to work well in a team.
So it's all about balance, finding that sweet spot between being confident and being humble. Okay, for a more positive trait, let's talk about streetwise.
Ah, streetwise. Now that's a good one. It suggests someone who's savvy, aware of their surroundings, and able to navigate tricky situations, especially in a city environment.
Like they've got that sixth sense for trouble. They can spot a scam a mile away.
Exactly. One of our sources describes someone as being streetwise because they know how to handle troublemakers on their way home. It's about having that instinct for self-preservation, that ability to read people and situations.
It's like having that inner radar that helps you avoid danger and make smart choices.
Precisely. Okay, let's jump back into the world of idioms for a bit. What about to make a mockery of? We touched on this one earlier, but I think it deserves a little more attention.
Yeah, it's a really powerful phrase, isn't it? It's not just about poking fun at something. It's more about expressing outrage. Like you're saying, this is so wrong, it's almost absurd.
Right, like when something is supposed to be serious or important, but it's been completely undermined or devalued.
One of our sources uses this idiom to describe how a legal loophole completely makes a mockery of the justice system.
Exactly. It highlights how something that's supposed to uphold fairness and justice has been twisted and manipulated for personal gain.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and look for an idiom that captures a feeling of accomplishment, that sense of satisfaction when your efforts pay off.
How about to reap the rewards? It perfectly captures that feeling of, like, enjoying the benefits of all your hard work.
Oh, I like that. It's like planting a seed, nurturing it, and then finally getting to harvest the fruits of your labor.
Exactly. One of our sources uses this idiom to describe how England would reap the rewards if they won the World Cup. Imagine that collective joy and national pride.
It's a beautiful image, isn't it? Okay, before we move on to our next theme, I want to circle back to something we've touched on a few times already, the importance of context in language.
Oh, absolutely. Context is everything. It's like the key to unlocking the true meaning of words and phrases.
One of our sources gives the example of the phrase off the record. We all know it from gossip, but it can have a totally different meaning in a professional setting, right?
Yeah. Like imagine you're a journalist interviewing a politician and they say, off the record, I can tell you. That's a completely different ballgame than gossiping with your friends.
Right. So we have to be really careful about how we interpret language, paying attention to the subtle cues and the unspoken rules of the situation.
Exactly. It's not just about the words themselves. It's about understanding the intentions behind them. Okay. Are you ready to explore our next theme?
Oh, yeah. Hit me with it. What's next on our language adventure?
Well, our next theme dives into the world of authority, influence, and control, exploring those subtle power dynamics that shape our interactions. We'll be looking at words like undermine, back down, and bluff, those moments when people are vying for power or trying to assert their dominance.
Ooh, this sounds juicy. I can't wait to unpack those power plays.
Me too. It's going to be a fascinating exploration of how language can be used to manipulate, persuade, and ultimately control the narrative.
I'm ready to see how these words play out in real-life situations.
Well, let's dive right in. One of our sources gives the example of someone undermining their colleague's authority by constantly criticizing their work.
Ooh, that's a classic power move, isn't it? Trying to make someone look bad so you can climb the ladder?
Exactly. It's a deliberate attempt to chip away at their confidence and credibility to make them question their own abilities.
So it's not just about giving feedback. It's about using language as a weapon to gain the upper hand. What about to back down? That phrase always makes me think of like defeat.
It does have that connotation, doesn't it? Like you're giving up, surrendering to the other person's will.
One of our sources mentions sponsors backing down on their demands for the layout of Wembley Stadium. What do you make of that example?
It sounds like a classic power struggle.
Yeah.
You know, the sponsors trying to exert their influence, but ultimately having to concede to the stadium management.
So sometimes backing down can be a strategic move, right? Like choosing your battles wisely.
Absolutely. There are times when it's better to retreat and regroup than to risk losing everything in a fight you can't win. Okay, now for a word that I think we all use, but maybe don't fully understand, bluff.
Oh, bluff. That's a good one. It's all about deception, right? Like pretending you have something you don't.
Exactly. It's about projecting confidence, even when you might be feeling totally insecure.
One of our sources describes someone bluffing their way through an exam. I think we've all been there at some point.
Oh, definitely. That fear of being exposed as a fraud, that feeling of, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. It's universal.
But you mentioned earlier that bluffing can sometimes be a necessary skill. How so?
Well, there are situations where projecting confidence, even if we don't entirely feel it, can be really helpful. Like, think about job interviews or salary negotiations. Sometimes a well-placed bluff can give you that extra edge.
So it's about knowing when to bluff and when to be authentic, right? It's about reading the situation and playing the game strategically.
Precisely. And that's where a deep understanding of language, those subtle nuances of meaning and intention, can be so valuable.
It's like having that secret decoder ring that allows you to see through the smoke and mirrors and understand what's really going on.
Exactly. And that's what we're trying to do here, to equip you with the knowledge and the tools to navigate these complex social interactions with confidence and fluency.
I'm feeling so much more streetwise already.
That's great to hear. But before we get too carried away with our newfound linguistic superpowers, let's take a moment to recap what we've learned so far. We've explored words and phrases for describing those tricky in-between feelings, for dissecting different personality types, and for understanding those subtle power dynamics that shape our interactions.
And we've delved into the fascinating world of idioms and slang, discovering how they can add color and depth to our language.
It's been a truly enriching journey so far, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface, though. There's still so much more to explore. We've got a whole world of language out there just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. Language is a living, breathing thing, constantly evolving and adapting to the world around us. And that's what makes it so fascinating to study.
I'm excited to see where this linguistic adventure takes us next. Welcome back to our deep dive. We've been having so much fun, haven't we?
I know, right? It's amazing how much there is to say about these words we use all the time.
Before the break, we were talking about those words tied to power dynamics, like undermine. We talked about backing down, too. So what about bluff? Where does that one fit in?
Well, with bluff, it's interesting because it all comes down to, this kind of performance. You're trying to project this image of confidence, even if deep down you might be freaking out.
Right. It's like fake it till you make it.
Yeah, kinda. Think about that example from our research. Someone bluffing their way through an exam.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there, haven't we? Sweating bullets, trying to act like we know the answers when we really have no clue.
Exactly. It's that classic fear of, what if they find out I'm a fraud?
Imposter syndrome, big time. But you said earlier that bluffing can actually be a useful skill sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. There are times when you kind of have to project that confidence, even if you don't fully feel it. Like imagine you're in a job interview or you're trying to negotiate a better salary.
Yeah, I guess in those situations, a little bluff could give you an edge.
Right. But it's a delicate balance because you don't want to come across as arrogant or dishonest.
So it's all about reading the room, knowing when to push and when to hold back.
Exactly. And that's why this whole deep dive is so important. It's about understanding those subtle cues, those layers of meaning that can really make or break a situation.
It's like having a secret weapon, You can decode those hidden messages and use language to your advantage.
Exactly. And as we've talked about, it's all about context. The same word can have totally different meanings depending on the situation, who you're talking to, even their tone of voice or body language.
It's a reminder that language is never static, right? It's always changing, evolving, new words pop up, old words take on new meanings. It's kind of wild when you think about it.
It really is. And that's what keeps it so interesting. There's always something new to learn, some new way to express ourselves.
I feel like I've learned so much already from this deep dive. I mean, just thinking about all the words we've talked about, from describing feelings and personalities to navigating those power dynamics. It's a lot.
It is. But hopefully it's also been really fun and engaging.
Oh, definitely. So before we wrap up, any last bits of wisdom you want to share with our listeners who are, really keen to level up their English?
Well, I'd say the most important thing is to stay curious. Pay attention to how people use language around you. Don't be afraid to ask questions if you hear a word you don't know. And most importantly, have fun with it.
I love that. It's all about playing with language, experimenting, and seeing what happens. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into advanced everyday English. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Now, before you go, I have a little challenge for you. Pick one word or phrase we talked about today and try to use it in a conversation this week. You might be surprised at how it changes things, how it helps you connect with people on a deeper level. And who knows, maybe you'll even impress someone with your newfound vocabulary skills. Until next time, happy word nerding.
All right. Welcome to another deep dive. And today we're diving headfirst into the world of English idioms.
The phrases that, they make you sound like you really know what you're talking about.
Like you're not just learning from a textbook.
Exactly.
We're working with a script, actually, from an English lesson all about these advanced phrases.
And rather than just running through all of them, we thought it would be fun to pick out some of the most colorful ones.
Yeah, the ones that really make you go, that's a cool way to say that.
And try to understand not just what they mean, but how they work, what makes them tick.
Okay, so the first one that jumped out at me, who doesn't love a good secret? But then you've got someone begging you to spill the beans.
Right. Yes, spill the beans. It's all about revealing a secret or a surprise.
Yeah, and it's not just about giving away the information.
No, there's a sense of anticipation, a little bit of mischief maybe even.
Right, imagine you're planning a surprise party.
Oh, yeah?
And everyone's trying so hard to keep it quiet. But you can just see the excitement bubbling over. And that's when you say, come on, spill the beans. Who else is in on this?
Exactly. And the funny thing is, spill the beans, it actually has a really interesting history.
Oh, does it?
It goes all the way back to ancient Greece, where voting, believe it or not, was often done using beans. White beans meant yes, and black beans meant no.
Oh, wow.
So if you, say, accidentally knocked over the container,
you'd be revealing the results, literally spilling the beans.
You got it. Isn't that fascinating? Each of these little phrases,
yeah,
it's like a little window into the past.
Yeah. Speaking of the past, this next one, by the skin of your teeth, that just paints such a vivid picture in my mind.
It does, and it means barely escaping disaster. Achieving something, but only just...
Yeah, by the narrowest margin possible.
I always picture someone sprinting to catch train just as the doors are closing.
Oh, yeah. And they make it on it just barely.
Out of breath, heart pounding.
Yeah, and there's this incredible feeling of relief.
That sense of, I can't believe I made it.
Right, like against all odds.
And it's something, we all connect with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We love those stories of close calls and narrow escapes.
Okay, this next phrase isn't quite as triumphant. In fact, it's kind of brutal. Throw someone under the bus.
Yeah, this one definitely has a darker edge to it.
Doesn't it? It implies betrayal, right? Like to save yourself.
Exactly, often at the expense of someone else.
Like in a really cutthroat environment.
You see it a lot, unfortunately, in workplaces, maybe even just in social situations.
Yeah, those times when you need to protect your own reputation, even if it means sacrificing someone else.
Right.
Not a pretty picture. Like taking credit for someone else's work or blaming them for your own mistakes.
Yeah, definitely not a compliment to be thrown under the bus.
Not at all. Okay, let's lighten the mood a bit. What about barking up the wrong tree? I mean, I can't help but smile when I hear that one.
It's such a great visual, isn't it?
It is. Like picturing this dog just going crazy at the base of a tree.
And meanwhile, the squirrel is like way off in the bushes somewhere.
Totally oblivious.
And it's a perfect metaphor for, well, pursuing a mistaken course of action.
Like you're totally on the wrong track.
Yeah, but what I love is the tone. It's often delivered with a kind of a playful, gentle nudge.
It's like, hey, I think you might want to rethink this one, buddy.
Exactly. Speaking of wrong tracks, have you ever noticed how bad luck seems to come in waves?
Oh, yeah. It's like when it rains, it pours.
And that's where add insult to injury comes in.
It's like the universe is piling on.
It is. You lose your keys, your phone dies, you miss the bus, all in the same morning.
It's like, come on, give me a break.
And this phrase really gets at that feeling of, a bad situation becoming even worse.
Like a little extra kick while you're already down.
And I think even though it's describing something negative, there's a certain humor in it.
There is. It's like finding the absurdity in the midst of chaos.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some phrases that are, well, a bit more about everyday life, like run-of-the-mill.
This one's all about the ordinary, the unremarkable.
Yeah, your average Tuesday afternoon kind of stuff.
Nothing special, just the usual.
But there's something to be said for the ordinary.
There is. Like, it's not always about the big, exciting things, right?
Right. Sometimes it's the familiar, the comfortable that we really crave.
Like that local coffee shop you always go to.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy, but it's just...
Right? Exactly. Now, on the flip side, we have a dime a dozen.
Oh, this one's interesting. So this means something is super common, right?
Extremely common, and therefore not very valuable.
It's like those trends that everyone jumps on for 5 minutes and then forgets about.
Oh, yeah. Like, remember fidget spinners?
Oh my gosh, yes. Those were everywhere and then poof, gone.
A dime a dozen.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, do we value things less when they're easy to get?
That's a good point. Maybe it's a reminder to appreciate what we have, even the simple things.
Right. Because what's common to one person might be a treasure to another.
Absolutely. Well said.
Okay, so speaking of valuing what we have, sometimes we need to, hit the ground running.
Ah, yes. Hit the ground running.
Yeah.
This one's all about starting strong.
Right. Being ready to go from the get-go. Full speed ahead.
Like starting a new job or launching a big project.
It's that feeling of, I'm prepared, I'm motivated, and I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah. You're not wasting any time.
No hesitation. And I think there's a real sense of enthusiasm in this phrase.
I agree. It's about being excited to tackle a challenge.
It really is. Okay, I think we have time for one more before we take a little break.
Okay, let's go for it.
So this one is, well, it's about reaching a breaking point. You know that moment when you've just had enough?
The last straw. I know exactly what you mean.
That's the one, that final incident that just pushes you over the edge.
I think you've been putting up with something for ages, and then bam, this one little thing and you snap.
It's the straw that breaks the camel's back, as they say.
And it could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Like a series of small annoyances that just build up.
Or one big thing that just sends you over the edge.
And it's a reminder, I think, that we all have our limits.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just got to say, enough is enough.
Well, we'll be back in a moment with even more of these fascinating English phrases.
We're just getting started.
So stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We are uncovering all the mysteries behind these colorful English phrases.
Yeah, these sayings that we use all the time, but maybe haven't really stopped to think about.
Right, like where they come from.
Yeah, or what they really mean.
Exactly.
Okay, so next up we have one that I think everyone can relate to, up in the air.
Ah, yes. Up in the air. It's that feeling of uncertainty. Like when things are undecided, plans are on hold, you're just kind of waiting to see what happens.
It's that feeling of like limbo almost.
Yeah, it is. Like imagine you're waiting to hear back about a job offer or like a college acceptance.
Oh yeah, those are definitely up in the air moments.
Big time. And your whole life kind of feels like it's hanging in the balance.
It really does. It's nerve-wracking.
But also, there's a sense of possibility too. Things could go either way.
That's true. It could be good or bad. We just don't know yet.
Exactly. Okay, this next phrase, it's not quite as lighthearted. A tough pill to swallow.
Ooh. Yeah, this one is about facing reality, even when it's hard.
Like accepting something you don't want to accept.
But you have to. Like what if your favorite band broke up?
Oof. Yeah, that would be
a tough pill to swallow.
For sure, especially if you're a diehard fan.
Right. Or what if you're really hoping for a promotion, but it goes to someone else?
Oh yeah, those are those moments where it's like, ugh, okay, got to deal with this.
And sometimes those tough pills, they force us to grow.
That's true. Maybe it's a chance to discover something new, a new path.
Yeah, sometimes you got to close one door to open another one, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so this next phrase always makes me think of those like epic movie montage scenes, where the hero is training and getting ready for the big challenge.
Oh, pull out all the stops. That's a good one.
That's it. It's about giving something your absolute all, putting in maximum effort.
Yeah, like you're holding nothing back.
Right. Imagine you're planning a huge event like a wedding or a big fundraiser.
You could pull out all the stops to make it amazing.
You got it. It's about going above and beyond, exceeding expectations.
Yeah. No half measures here.
Right. Okay, this next one just conjures up such a vivid image, caught red-handed.
It's like something straight out of a detective movie.
It is. You can practically see the scene, the culprit standing there, the evidence right there in their hands.
There's no denying it, no escape.
They're busted. And there's something about that, that moment of being caught. It's just so dramatic.
Yeah, like the jig is up.
It speaks to our fascination with justice, We want to see the truth revealed.
Okay, so let's talk about go the extra mile. This one's all about effort, isn't it?
It is. It's about going above and beyond what's expected, putting in that extra effort.
Not just doing the bare minimum.
No, it's about exceeding expectations, showing that you really care.
Like if a coworker stays late to help you with a project.
Even though they don't have to.
Yeah, that's definitely going the extra mile.
It can be the little things too, like taking the time to really listen to someone.
Or offering to help out when you see someone struggling.
Exactly. It's about being thoughtful, considerate.
Yeah, those little acts of kindness that make a big difference.
Absolutely. And lastly, we have a phrase that perfectly captures, the power of trends.
Jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
This one's about joining the crowd, right?
It is. It's about embracing something that's popular, maybe a new trend, a movement.
Like when a new song comes out and suddenly everyone's listening to it.
Or a new fashion trend emerges and everyone's wearing it.
Yeah, it's like this irresistible force that pulls people in.
And while it can sometimes have a negative connotation, like, oh, you're just following the crowd.
Right.
But it also speaks to this human need to belong.
Yeah, to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That tension between individuality and conformity.
It really is. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here with these 15 phrases.
We have, and it makes you realize just how much richness and depth there is in everyday language.
Yeah, we use these phrases all the time, but maybe we haven't really stopped to appreciate the stories they tell.
The history, the imagery, the emotions they evoke.
It's amazing. But before we wrap up, we have one final thought-provoking question for you.
All right, let's hear it.
What new phrases do you think will emerge in the future? What words and expressions will capture the essence of our times? That's a question that really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
As we wrap up our deep dive into these fascinating phrases,
it
really gets you wondering, what will people be saying 100 years from now?
Right. Like, what new expressions will they come up with?
Especially with all the technology changing so fast.
Oh, yeah. Like, imagine the phrases that might come out of the metaverse or, space travel.
Ooh, space travel. That's a good one.
Like,
we might start saying things like, oh, man, I'm feeling so meta-fatigued, or oh, my avatar needs a serious style upgrade.
I love it.
Or like, imagine phrases inspired by space travel.
Oh, yeah. Like, let's blast off to that new restaurant.
Oh.
Or that movie was a total black hole of boredom.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
And it's not just about new words.
Right. Not at all.
Like, think about how the meaning of viral has completely changed because of social media.
Oh, absolutely. That's a perfect example.
So these phrases, they're not static. They evolve along with us.
That's what makes language so fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. So as we conclude our deep dive today, I think the biggest takeaway is to stay curious.
Right. Keep your ears open.
Exactly. Pay attention to the way people are speaking, the new words they're using, the creative ways they're expressing themselves.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to experiment with your own language, too.
Right. Try out some of these phrases we've talked about, see how they feel.
You might even invent some new phrases of your own.
You never know. Because language is all about communication, connection, and creativity, right?
Absolutely.
So go out there and have fun with it.
Happy language exploring.
All right, so are you ready to dive into some seriously cool stuff with me today?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. Because we are going deep into a 20-minute lesson plan. And this one is all about helping you master intros.
Yeah.
You know, like when you meet someone new.
Oh, yeah.
And sharing your experiences, like how to tell a captivating story. It's all about boosting that conversational charisma so you can ditch those awkward silences and connect with people like a pro.
You know what I find really interesting about this plan? It's not just about memorizing lines or, like a script.
Yeah.
It's about understanding like the psychology behind a truly great introduction.
Oh, totally.
And they really walk you through it step by step, from like warming up those conversational muscles to actually role-playing scenarios. So it's like you're not just learning the theory.
Right.
You're building real confidence in those practical skills you can actually use out in the wild.
I love that. And you know what else I love?
Right.
How they kick things off with an icebreaker activity.
Uh-huh.
It's so simple, but so clever. Okay, so picture this. You pair up with someone and you share a unique fact about yourself, something that most people wouldn't guess. Like a little treasure hunt of personal trivia, right?
I like that.
So what's something most people wouldn't guess about you?
Oh, wow. Putting me on the spot already.
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe I used to be a competitive ballroom dancer.
No way.
Yeah, it's true.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It gets you thinking, and it's a fantastic way to break the ice without feeling like all eyes are on you,
It's true, and it subtly shifts everyone's mindset from feeling like, oh gosh, I have to perform or say something super clever.
Exactly.
To realizing that, hey, everyone has something interesting to share. It creates this instant sense of camaraderie, and it sets the stage for, more genuine sharing as the conversation goes on.
It's like a warm-up for your soul.
I like that.
So, okay, you're all warmed up, feeling good. Now it's time to level up your vocabulary.
Okay.
This plan introduces 5 advanced expressions that, let's be honest, make you sound incredibly sophisticated. It's like giving your intros a linguistic makeover.
Love it.
So the first one is, I hail from.
Ooh, fancy.
Now, doesn't that sound so much more intriguing than just saying I'm from?
Definitely paints a more vivid picture.
Right.
Instead of just stating a location, you're evoking a sense of origin and background.
Yes.
Remember the example they used?
Uh-huh.
I hail from a small town nestled in the rolling hills of Tuscany.
Oh, stop it.
Suddenly, you're not just from Italy, you're from a place with history, with charm. Maybe even some delicious pasta.
I'm already picturing the vineyards.
Right.
And it's not just about sounding fancy. It's about being memorable. Which brings us to the next phrase I'm passionate about. It's engaging, and it tells people what lights you up.
What's interesting here is that it's not just about listing hobbies.
Yeah.
It's about conveying your enthusiasm and even hinting at the values that drive you.
That's a good point.
So, for example, instead of saying, I like photography,
right,
you could say, I'm passionate about capturing the fleeting beauty of everyday moments.
Ooh, I like that.
It adds depth and personality.
It's like you're not just taking pictures. You're an artist capturing those little moments in time.
Exactly.
Now, this next phrase is a conversation starter. One thing that shaped me was it's an invitation to share a pivotal moment in your life and show how you've evolved.
It's a powerful way to create a connection by revealing a piece of your personal journey. And it doesn't have to be, some grand life-altering event.
Right.
The example they use is, one thing that shaped me was learning to play the guitar as a teenager.
Oh.
It's relatable, it's intriguing, and it makes you want to know more.
It's like a sneak peek into the experiences that have made you who you are today.
Exactly.
And for those of us who like to explore different interests I've dabbled in.
Ooh, like that one.
It's a more playful way to acknowledge experiences that might not define you, but have still enriched your life,
Yeah, I think this phrase is particularly useful in more informal settings. It allows you to showcase your curiosity and willingness to try new things without feeling like you have to be an expert in everything.
Oh, totally.
Imagine saying, I've dabbled in pottery, and let's just say I'm much better at appreciating art than creating it. A little self-deprecating humor, which can instantly put people at ease.
That's a great point. Humor can be such a powerful tool for connection.
It really can.
Now, this last phrase is all about self-awareness. If I had to describe myself in 3 words...
Oh, this is a tough one.
Talk about a challenge, right? It forces you to distill your essence and think critically about how you want to present yourself to the world.
It's a great exercise in personal branding.
It is.
The example they give is curious, creative, and compassionate.
Nice.
And notice how these words not only describe personality traits, but also suggest values and a way of approaching the world.
It's like a mini mission statement for your life.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this arsenal of impressive vocabulary, but how do we actually use it to craft a killer introduction?
That's the big question, right?
Well, that's where the guided practice section comes in.
Okay.
This is where they give you a structured template and an example introduction that flows beautifully.
I love a good template.
Me too. Because, sometimes you just need that little bit of structure.
This template is so valuable because it helps you avoid those dreaded ums and ahs, the ones that can creep in.
Oh, yeah.
And make you sound less confident.
Totally.
It provides a framework to follow so your thoughts can flow more naturally, making you sound polished and prepared.
It's like having training wheels for your conversation.
Aha. I love that.
And the example they give, it's golden. It goes something like this. Hi, I'm Elena. I hail from sunny Barcelona, Spain. Currently, I'm working as a software engineer for a startup. One thing that shaped me was traveling solo for 6 months through Southeast Asia. If I had to describe myself in 3 words, I'd say I'm curious, adventurous, and a bit of a coffee fanatic.
I love how effortlessly it weaves those advanced phrases in. You get a sense of Elena's personality, her background, even a hint of her values, all in a few sentences.
It's like a condensed movie trailer for Elena's life.
Right. So concise, engaging makes you want to learn more.
Exactly. Okay, introductions. Check. Now let's talk storytelling, the heart of good conversation.
This is where we go beyond just stating facts. We start weaving them into a compelling narrative, right?
Yes. And the lesson plan breaks it down so well. A simple 3-part structure.
The start, middle, and end.
Which sounds obvious, but having that clear framework makes all the difference when you're trying to, hook people with your story.
It's like building a house. You need that solid foundation, the well-constructed frame, and the roof to tie it all together.
Love that analogy.
Yeah.
So for the start, you set the scene, introduce the characters.
Then in the middle, you describe the event, what made it significant.
And finally, at the end, you share the outcome and what you learned from the whole experience.
They use a great example of running a marathon to illustrate this.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
The story starts with the decision to run despite not being a runner at all.
Right.
The middle dives into those challenges, the self-doubt that come up during training.
And that feeling when you just want to give up.
Exactly. And then the end focuses on the triumph of crossing that finish line and that valuable lesson learned about pushing past your perceived limits.
See, it's such a relatable story because I think everyone has had those moments where they're like, I can't do this.
We've all been there.
But then you find that inner strength and you keep going. But what makes this story so effective is the details.
Yeah, the details are everything.
Describing the feeling of wanting to quit at mile 18 or that overwhelming sense of accomplishment at the finish line.
Exactly. It's those details that bring the story to life and let the listener connect with the emotions behind it.
It's not just what happened, it's how it made you feel.
Right.
Okay, so structure, we got it. But what about delivery? How do we make sure our stories land with impact?
That's where the role-playing activity comes in.
Ooh, this is where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. So the lesson plan has, you imagine you're at a networking event, okay? And you have to introduce yourself and share a story or an interesting fact.
I can see how some people might be hesitant to role play.
Oh, for sure. It can feel awkward, especially if you're not used to putting yourself out there.
But isn't that kind of the point, to get comfortable with those feelings and develop the confidence to share your story, even when you're feeling a bit vulnerable?
Absolutely. It's like any skill, the more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
Yeah.
And the beauty of role-playing is that safe environment. You know, you can experiment, get feedback, refine your approach without the pressure of a real-life situation.
It's like a dress rehearsal before opening night.
Exactly. And speaking of wrapping things up, the lesson plan ends with reflection and homework. They encourage you to identify a phrase or technique you enjoyed using, even write a detailed introduction for the next class.
So it's like learning is an ongoing process.
Precisely. It's not just about memorizing a few phrases or practicing a couple introductions. It's about developing that growth mindset and constantly seeking ways to improve your communication skills.
You're always leveling up.
Exactly. This lesson plan gives you the tools, but it's up to you to keep using them and refining your approach over time.
You know what's really hitting me is that this lesson plan, it's not just about becoming a smooth talker.
Right.
It's about becoming a better communicator overall.
Oh, absolutely.
Which honestly can benefit you in every single aspect of life.
Think about it. How many times have you struggled to articulate your thoughts or feelings?
All the time.
Or felt like you weren't really connecting with someone?
Yeah.
This lesson plan gives you the tools to bridge those communication gaps and build stronger, more meaningful relationships.
It's funny, we often think of communication as something that just happens naturally, but it's really a skill.
It is.
And like any skill, it takes practice and intention to develop.
What I find fascinating is that even though we communicate all the time, constantly, we rarely take the time to actually analyze how we do it.
That's so true.
This lesson plan encourages you to become more mindful of your communication style and to identify areas where you can improve.
So it's like having a personal trainer, but for your communication skills.
Exactly.
It helps you pinpoint your strengths, work on your weaknesses, and ultimately become a more confident and effective communicator.
And the best part is you can see the results in real time, you know? As you practice these techniques, you'll notice that conversations flow more easily, connections deepen, and misunderstandings become less frequent.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave our listener with a challenge.
Okay, I like it.
Don't just file this information away, put it into practice. I challenge you to try out one of these techniques today.
Yes, don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Start small.
Maybe you try out one of those power phrases at your next meeting.
Ooh, good one.
Or share a story with a friend using that start, middle, and end structure we talked about.
Pay attention to how people respond. You might be surprised by the impact a few well-chosen words or a well-told story can have.
And most importantly, have fun with it. Communicating shouldn't feel like a chore. It should be an opportunity to connect, to share, and to express yourself authentically.
Every conversation is a chance to learn and grow. So embrace those opportunities and watch as your communication skills blossom.
You got this. We have absolute faith in your ability to become a more confident and engaging communicator. Until next time, happy connecting. Okay, imagine this. You're at a cafe, just eavesdropping on the conversation at the next table.
Yeah.
And they're like, my car broke down.
Oh, no.
I'm totally running out of time. I just want to give up and go home.
Classic.
And you're thinking, wait, what's with all these verbs and prepositions? It's like a secret code.
Right. It's phrasal verbs galore.
Exactly. So that's what we're diving into today, phrasal verbs.
Those tricky little combos that can make or break your fluency.
We're going deep with this awesome guide to the top 10 most frequently used phrasal verbs.
Which I'm excited to unpack with you.
Because once you master these, you'll sound so much more natural.
It's like leveling up your English,
Totally. So first up, get up.
Ah, the classic.
Seems pretty basic, right? I mean, it's like, getting out of bed.
Yeah, the guide defines it as rising from bed or a sitting position.
Right, but I feel like there's more to it.
Oh, there always is with phrasal verbs.
Like you might get up for work, but you might get yourself up after a tough workout,
Exactly, that yourself adds a little extra oomph.
Right, like you're really pushing through.
All about the nuance.
I love it. Okay, so the practice sentence here asks, what time do you get up on weekends?
Ooh, good question.
What about you? Are you an early bird or do you sleep in?
Weekends are for sleeping in.
Same here.
Definitely.
Okay, moving on to turn on and turn off.
These are like the bread and butter of phrasal verbs.
Right. I mean, we're constantly turning things on and off.
Lights, TVs, phones, you name it.
The guide gives us the classic examples like, can you turn on the lights? And don't forget to turn off the TV.
Simple but essential.
But I'm curious, is there anything interesting about the history of these, given how tied they are to technology?
That's a really good point. You wouldn't have had turn on the TV a couple hundred years ago.
Right.
It shows how language adapts to new inventions.
And I bet there are tons of new phrasal verbs popping up now with all the tech we have. But before we go down that rabbit hole, let's stick with the guide's practice sentence. I turned off my phone during the meeting.
Ooh, the digital detox.
Have you ever done that, or are you someone who's constantly checking their phone, even in meetings?
I try to be present and turn it off, but sometimes it's hard.
I feel you. The temptation is real.
It is.
Okay, next up is look after.
Which means to take care of someone or something.
Right. But again, I feel like there are different levels to this.
No, absolutely. It's not just about glancing at something. It's about responsibility and care.
The guide's example is, can you look after my dog while I'm on vacation?
A classic pet sitting request.
But it's not just about watching the dog. It's about making sure they're fed, walked, loved.
Exactly. It's a deeper level of care.
The practice sentence for this one is, it's not easy to look after 3 kids at once.
Ooh, that's a whole other level.
Can you imagine?
Definitely a juggling act.
Speaking of juggling acts, have you ever felt like you were running out of time, energy, patience, maybe even coffee?
Oh, all the time.
That brings us to our next phrasal verb, run out of.
Which can be used in so many situations.
Right. The guide defines it as using up all of something.
And it often has that sense of urgency or need, like, we're running out of milk.
Or I'm running out of time to finish this project.
Exactly. It captures that feeling of depletion.
And it doesn't always have to be physical things. You can run out of ideas, motivation.
Even patience, like we were just talking about.
The guide's example is, we've run out of milk. Can you buy some more?
A classic grocery list problem.
Happens all the time in my house.
I bet.
Okay, so the practice sentence asks, I ran out of ideas during the brainstorming session.
Oof, I've been there.
Have you ever hit that wall creatively?
Oh, yeah, especially in high-pressure situations.
It's like your brain just shuts down.
Totally.
Okay, ready for a quick wardrobe change?
Always.
Because next up, we have put on and take off, which are all about clothing.
And accessories. Don't forget the accessories.
Right. The guide keeps it simple. Put on is to wear something. Take off is to remove it.
Like we put on our shoes in the morning.
And take off our jackets when we come inside.
But sometimes we even put on a brave face.
Or take off our metaphorical hats to someone.
It's amazing how they can be used both literally and figuratively.
The guide's examples are, it's cold outside, put on your jacket.
Good advice.
And she took off her shoes before entering the house.
Always a good idea.
Do you always take off your shoes when you go inside?
I try to. Yeah, it just feels more comfortable.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, the practice sentence for this one is, I always put on sunscreen before going to the beach.
Sun protection is key.
What about you? What's your essential put on before hitting the beach?
A good hat is a must for me.
Smart.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to a phrasal verb that can be a bit tricky. Give up.
Yeah, this one has both positive and negative connotations.
Right. I mean, you can give up on something because it's too hard.
Or you can give up something that's no longer serving you.
The guide defines it as to stop trying or quit something.
Which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on the situation.
Their example is very motivational, though. Never give up on your dreams.
It's a good reminder to persevere.
But sometimes knowing when to give up is just as important.
Absolutely. Like if you're constantly banging your head against a wall.
Right. Maybe try a different door.
Exactly. Sometimes giving up opens up new possibilities.
I love that perspective. Okay, the practice sentence for give up is a bit more personal. I wanted to learn guitar, but I gave up after a few months.
Oh, I relate to that.
Have you ever had that experience with a hobby or a skill you were trying to learn?
Oh, yeah. I tried learning to knit once, and it just wasn't happening.
It's okay to admit defeat sometimes.
Totally.
All right. Ready for a phrasal verb that can be both literal and figurative?
Bring it on.
Okay, it's break down.
This one can refer to everything from cars to emotional meltdowns.
Right, like your car can break down on the freeway.
Or you can have a breakdown when you hear bad news.
Two very different scenarios, but the same phrasal verb ties them together.
It's all about context.
Exactly. Okay, the guide's practice sentence asks, what do you usually do when your computer breaks down?
Ooh, the dreaded blue screen of death.
Do you have a go-to solution or do you panic?
I try to troubleshoot it myself, but I'm not afraid to call for help.
Same here. Sometimes you just need a tech guru to save the day.
For sure.
Speaking of saving the day, have you ever had to pick someone up from the airport last minute?
Oh, yeah. It happens all the time.
That's like the classic friend move, right?
Definitely.
Which brings us to our next phrasal verb, pick up.
Which, as we've just hinted at, can mean to collect someone or something.
But it also has a few other meanings.
Like to lift something off the ground.
Or to learn something quickly.
It's a multi-talented phrasal verb.
But guide's examples are, pick up that book off the floor.
For the literal meaning.
And I'll pick you up from the airport for the collecting meaning.
It's all about context.
Okay, to get your brain working on all those different meanings, the practice sentence is, she picked up the book and started reading.
Ooh, getting lost in a good book.
What was the last thing you picked up?
I picked up a new cookbook the other day.
Nice. What kind of cuisine?
It's all about Mediterranean dishes.
Ooh, sounds delicious.
It is.
Maybe you can pick me up from the airport sometime when we can have a Mediterranean feast.
Yeah.
Speaking of picking things up, how do you usually find out about new restaurants or events in your city?
Ooh, that's a good question. I usually rely on word of mouth and social media.
Which perfectly segues into our next phrasal verb, find out.
Which is all about uncovering information and satisfying our curiosity.
It's like being a detective in the world of language.
Exactly. We're constantly trying to find things out, whether it's big news or just what our friends are up to.
The guide's example is, I need to find out what time the train leaves.
Very practical.
But it can also be about deeper discoveries, you know?
Absolutely.
Okay, the guy's practice sentence is, how did you find out about the concert?
That makes me think about all the different ways we consume information these days.
So what are your go-to sources for finding out about cool stuff happening?
I think it's a mix of everything: social media, word of mouth, good old-fashioned internet searching.
I usually get most of my intel from friends and family.
They're like your personal news curators.
Exactly. Speaking of news curators, have you ever noticed how some headlines use really dramatic phrasal verbs?
Oh, totally.
Like, politician calls out opponent, or celebrity couple breaks up.
It's all about grabbing your attention.
Did a phrasal verb battle royale out there. Okay, we're down to our final phrasal verb for this deep dive.
Let's hear it.
It's one that can be both practical and romantic. Take out.
Ah, yes. This one has multiple personalities.
Like, you can take out the trash, which is pretty straightforward.
But you can also take someone out on a date.
The guide's examples highlight this perfectly. Can you take out the trash?
For the chore-related meaning.
And he took her out for dinner last night for the dating scenario.
Two very different vibes.
The practice sentence for this one is, I took out my wallet to pay for the coffee.
A very relatable everyday action.
So when is the last time you took something out?
I think I took out my frustration on a jigsaw puzzle earlier.
Ooh, that's a good way to release some stress.
It is.
And it speaks to the figurative meaning of takeout, right?
Exactly. It can mean to remove something physically, but also to express or release something emotionally.
It's like a phrasal verb with a double life.
Which is what makes them so fascinating.
Totally. We've just scratched the surface with these 10 common phrasal verbs.
But I bet you're starting to see how they pop up everywhere.
They're like the secret ingredient to sounding more natural in English.
And the more you pay attention to them, the more you'll start to notice their nuances.
So what are your thoughts so far? Any phrasal verbs that have particularly stood out to you?
I'm ready to dive deeper.
I'm with you. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back for more phrasal verb fun.
Sounds good. I'm ready for more phrasal verb fun.
Me too. It's like we're uncovering this hidden layer of the English language.
Right. And before the break, we were talking about how they can reflect cultural nuances.
Yeah, like take someone out for a date that's very American.
Exactly. In other cultures, inviting someone out might be phrased totally differently.
It's fascinating how these little phrases give us a glimpse into different cultures.
And even within English, phrasal verbs evolve over time, like with technology.
Oh, totally. Swipe right. That's a modern classic.
Exactly. Language is always adapting.
Okay, so we've explored this first batch of common phrasal verbs, but why are they so prevalent in English?
Well, it's partly historical. English loves combining verbs and prepositions.
Like a linguistic Lego set.
I like that. And it allows for subtle shades of meaning.
Right, like look at versus look after. There's a difference.
Look after implies more responsibility.
Exactly. And while they can be tricky for learners, they make things easier for native speakers.
They're like shortcuts, but you have to know the code.
So it's a trade-off. Learners have to work harder, but then they unlock this fluency.
Precisely. Did you notice how some phrasal verbs cluster around certain themes?
Ooh, yeah, like a lot of these relate to daily routines.
Getting up, turning things on and off, running out of stuff.
It's like they reflect our everyday experiences.
And it makes learning them more engaging, right? You can connect them to your life.
Absolutely. It's not just memorizing lists, it's understanding how we use language in the real world.
Speaking of real-world experiences, have you ever had a phrasal verb mishap?
Ooh, let me think. Okay, this one time I was traveling in Europe, trying to order takeaway coffee, to go.
Yeah.
But instead of saying, take this coffee to go, I said, can I take this coffee off?
Oh, no.
The barista looked at me so confused.
I can imagine.
I was so flustered, I ended up just pointing and making gestures.
It happens to the best of us.
But it taught me a valuable lesson. You have to understand the nuances of these phrasal verbs.
Context is everything.
That's exactly. All right, I'm ready to dive into those new phrasal verbs you mentioned.
Let's do it.
All right, so those new phrasal verbs, you mentioned some before the break.
Yeah, they're like these little linguistic time capsules.
Capturing the zeitgeist.
Exactly. Binge watch. That's pure streaming culture.
And swipe right. Online dating in a nutshell.
It's even gone beyond dating, like swipe right to approve an idea.
I've heard that. It's amazing how language spreads.
But then there are the ones that reflect the maybe the downsides of modern life.
Like ghosting, the worst.
Yeah, it's like the digital version of disappearing.
And burnout, doom scrolling, those are heavy.
And capture that feeling of overwhelm, you know?
Totally, like we're searching for the words to describe this modern anxiety.
Right.
But there are also some fun new ones. Level up is a good one.
Oh yeah, that's a motivational one, like from video games.
It's about growth, progress.
Exactly, and it's playful.
And then there's adulting, which is just so relatable.
Ugh. Adulting. The millennial struggle.
It's like all those things we're supposed to know how to do.
Taxes, bills, appointment.
But we're all just figuring it out as we go.
Faking it till we make it.
And laughing about it on social media.
Exactly. Shared experiences, even if we're all adulting differently.
So what do all these new phrasal verbs tell us about the future of English?
I think they show how adaptable language is, always changing.
It's not static. It reflects how we live, how we communicate.
And phrasal verbs are a perfect example. They encapsulate trends, technology, even emotions.
It's like each one is a little snapshot of a moment in time.
What new ones will we have in 5 years, 10 years?
It's exciting to think about.
So for anyone listening, be curious about language. Pay attention to how it's used.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, to experiment.
You might even invent the next great phrasal verb.
That's the challenge I'm leaving everyone with.
Embrace the playfulness of language.
Phrasal verbs are just one small part of it, but they show how dynamic and fascinating English can be.
Exactly, and I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive.
Thanks for joining us on this linguistic adventure. Until next time, happy exploring the world of words.
Happy exploring.
Welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling something you use every day, probably without even thinking about it too much.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Numbers and time.
Okay, interesting. And how are we diving into that?
Well, our roadmap for this deep dive is a 100-minute lesson plan.
100 minutes. That's pretty intense.
Well, don't worry. We're giving you the express tool.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
I mean, you might be thinking, I already know numbers. I know how to tell time. But, think about it this way. This deep dive is about the structure of how we learn these concepts.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
Like whether you're teaching these concepts to somebody else, or maybe you're learning a new language, or maybe you're just fascinated by those everyday things that we kind of take for granted.
Yeah, it's funny how the most basic things can actually be pretty complex when you really look at them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I found really interesting about this lesson plan that we're looking at is how systematic it is.
Oh, interesting.
Like it starts with the most basic building blocks, and then methodically adds complexity as it goes.
So it shows how our brains build up to a really sophisticated understanding, but from a simple starting point.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty cool. And it jumps right in with numbers. Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
Well, it actually starts with counting 1 to 20 first.
Okay, that does seem pretty basic.
Yeah. But does it really? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, getting the number order right was a big deal. Why does 7 come after 6?
It's funny because when you think about it, that decimal system that we use every day, it really relies on understanding those first 10 digits, right? And then you build from there. And even across languages, a lot of languages have similar structures for those early numbers.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's kind of a common starting point for communication no matter where you are in the world.
So it's sort of like a universal language in a way.
In a way, yeah. Like a Rosetta Stone for numbers.
I like that. But then English gets tricky, right? 13 versus 30.
Ugh. Don't even get me started. I still mix those up sometimes.
I know. It's why does English have to be so complicated sometimes?
Well, and the lesson plan actually highlights those pronunciation pitfalls early on.
Ooh, that's sorry.
Right from the beginning. It's okay, watch out for these. So after you get 1 to 20 down, then it moves on to how do you build bigger numbers? All the way up to 99.
And that's where understanding place value becomes really, really important.
Place value.
Yeah, 21, 32, 45. It's all about seeing the pattern, how the tens and the ones like work together.
Oh, okay. So it's like you're cracking a code.
Exactly. It's like a number code.
So we've cracked the code up to 99.
We're on a roll.
But what about those giant numbers? Like, does it cover those too?
It does. So this lesson plan goes all the way up to 10,000.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it really emphasizes that logic of thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones.
Okay, so it's still building on that same foundation, even when you get to those really big numbers.
Exactly. It's all connected. And it even touches on Roman numerals, which I think is really fascinating.
Roman numerals, like IVX.
Yeah, because it shows how differently, like, ancient civilizations approached numbers.
Oh, that's cool. It's like a totally different way of thinking about it.
Right. It's like a whole other number system.
Yeah.
But let's get real for a second.
Yep.
How does this lesson plan actually help someone, like, use numbers in everyday life?
That's a good question. Like, it's great to know the theory, but how do you actually put it into practice?
Well, that's where it gets really practical. The lesson plan includes things like phone numbers, asking someone's age, talking about money.
Oh, okay. So like real world scenarios.
Exactly. Using phrases you'd actually encounter in daily conversations.
So it's kind of like a cheat sheet for real life conversations.
Exactly. And there's even a suggestion for a game of number bingo.
Bingo, like with numbers instead of letters.
Yeah. I mean, I love bingo, but do you think it actually helps with numbers? Or is it just like a fun activity?
Oh, I think games are fantastic for learning, especially for kids.
Oh, yeah.
Bingo can really help reinforce number recognition, the order of numbers.
And it's fun, so that's a bonus.
Exactly. Plus, a little friendly competition never hurt anyone.
Okay, so we've conquered the world of numbers.
At least up to 10,000.
But what about time? How does this lesson plan tackle that?
Time is next, and the lesson plan starts by addressing the two main ways we see time: analog and digital clocks.
Yeah, those are like the two biggies.
Right, and making sure you're comfortable with both is really key because you encounter both in the real world.
It's funny, I'm so used to digital clocks now that I almost forget how to read an analog clock sometimes.
I know, right? It's like a lost art.
But the lesson plan uses those like classic phrases for telling time, like o'clock, quarter past, quarter to. But are those really universal? Like, do people in other countries say it the same way? That's a great question, and it actually brings up the like cultural aspect of time telling.
Interesting.
Like, those phrases are pretty common in a lot of English-speaking regions, but other cultures might have totally different ways of expressing those fractions of an hour.
So even something as basic as like quarter past isn't so straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. It really depends on where you are in the world and what language you're speaking.
Wow, I never thought about that before. So this lesson plan is making me realize there's a lot more to numbers and time than I initially thought.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
And the lesson plan also really emphasizes using a real clock to practice telling time.
Oh yeah, that visual element is so important, especially if you're someone who learns best by seeing things.
So you can actually see the hands moving as you're saying the phrases.
Right. It helps solidify that connection between the like abstract idea of time and its physical representation.
So it's like you're making time tangible.
Exactly. You can actually see it happening.
That's pretty cool. And what I really appreciate about this lesson plan is how specific it is about like the actual phrases you would use for asking and telling time.
Oh yeah, it gives you the words.
Yeah, it's not just about understanding what time it is, it's about how to actually say it in conversation.
So it's like giving you the script for those everyday interactions.
Yeah, exactly. And that could be super helpful for someone learning English or even just someone who gets like tongue-tied asking for the time.
I know, right? It can be surprisingly tricky.
It's like suddenly you forget how to say the simplest things.
Exactly. And this lesson plan, it just takes away all that guesswork and helps you build confidence.
And just like with the number section, it also encourages role-playing to practice those time-telling skills.
Oh, that's great. So you're not just learning the words, you're actually using them.
It's like putting it all into action.
Exactly. Learning by doing.
So where does this deep dive go from here? We've covered numbers. We've tackled telling time. What's next?
Well, now it gets personal.
Ooh,
The lesson plan shifts its focus to how we use numbers and time in our own daily lives.
Okay, now that's something I can relate to. I mean, everyone has a routine, right?
Exactly. And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
Can't wait.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Glad to be back. So last time we were talking about how this lesson plan takes a really personal turn.
Yeah, it starts to focus on how we actually use numbers and time in our day-to-day life.
Like our routines.
Exactly. Waking up, going to work, bedtime, those everyday things.
Like they were reading my diary or something.
Right. But it's so smart how they incorporate the numbers and time telling we learned in the first part. It's not just about the concepts anymore. It's about applying them.
Oh, so they actually give you ways to practice.
Yeah, like they actually suggest students write out their daily routines.
Oh, interesting. So instead of just saying, I wake up at 7, you'd write.
I wake up at 7 o'clock, or I wake up at 7:15. Using those specific phrases.
Right, right. So it reinforces what you've learned, but it's also personalized.
Exactly. And it made me think, we talk about routines all the time, but do we ever really stop and analyze them?
Analyze them. How do you mean?
Well, how much of our day is really dictated by the clock versus how much is actually our own choice?
That's a good question. Never really thought about it that way.
But the lesson plan doesn't just stop at routines, does it?
Nope. It goes beyond those basic routines and gets into things like appointments and transportation schedules.
Oh, okay. Stuff that can get a little tricky if you're not really comfortable with numbers and time.
Right. Like imagine trying to catch a bus or make a doctor's appointment if you can't clearly communicate what time you need to be there.
Oh, yeah. That's when it stops being theoretical and starts being real life stress.
Exactly. And that's why this lesson plan is so helpful. It gives you those tools to feel confident and in control, even in situations where you might feel a little anxious.
Makes sense. But how do you actually know if someone's really grasped all this? Is there a test? Of course. There's another quiz, and this time it mixes numbers and time together.
Ooh, a combo quiz. That sounds like a good challenge. Though, sometimes I think I learn more from making up the questions than actually answering them.
Oh, I totally agree. When you have to come up with the questions, you have to think about the material in a whole different way.
Yeah, you have to anticipate what someone else might need to know, and that really helps you understand it better yourself.
So maybe we should encourage our listener to try making their own quizzes about numbers and time.
Ooh, I like that. A deep dive challenge for our listeners. But before we get too carried away with quiz making, let's step back for a second.
Okay.
What have we actually learned from this deep dive into the lesson plan so far?
Well, I think it shows that even with something as basic as numbers and time, there's real method to learning them.
Like a step-by-step process.
Yeah.
Right.
You start with the building blocks and then you layer on complexity, always making sure to connect back to how you'd actually use this stuff in real life.
It's like a reminder that learning should be both structured and meaningful.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting how interconnected everything is. We started with numbers, then time, then routines, and now these more complex scenarios.
It's like it all builds on itself.
Right. It's not just separate topics, it's all woven together.
And that's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive.
We'll see how this lesson plan really pushes learners to become fluent and confident with numbers and time in any situation.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into numbers and time. It's amazing how much ground we've covered, right?
It really is. We started with something as simple as counting to 20, and now look at us.
It's all thanks to this amazing lesson plan. The last part, we were talking about how it gets into these more real-life situations.
Yeah, like going to appointments, figuring out travel schedules, the stuff that can be kind of stressful if you're not totally comfortable with the language.
Exactly. And it's here, in this final stretch, that the lesson plan really seems to emphasize, conversational fluency.
Oh, for sure. It's okay, you've got the basics. Now let's make sure you can actually use them in real life.
So you're not just understanding numbers and time, you're actually able to use them without even thinking about it.
Right, it becomes second nature.
So it's like taking all those building blocks that we've been working with and turning them into a fully functional, communication system.
I like that, a communication system. It's about bridging that gap between what you know in your head and what you can actually do out in the world.
Exactly. And one of the ways this lesson plan does that is through a final quiz. We talked about quizzes before, and I know you're a big fan of making your own quizzes.
Oh yeah, always a good challenge.
But what's special about this final quiz in the lesson plan?
Well, it's designed to be more challenging than the previous ones. It brings together numbers and time in these more complex scenarios.
So it's not just what time is it?
No, it's more okay, if the train leaves at 4:15 and the journey takes 35 minutes, what time will you arrive? Stuff like that.
Ooh. Okay, that does sound a bit trickier.
It really makes you think, right? You have to do some calculations, put different pieces of information together.
And be able to explain your answer clearly.
Exactly. It's impressive considering this lesson plan started with basic counting.
It really is. But aside from quizzes, are there other ways the lesson plan encourages this real-world fluency?
Definitely. One of the last activities is a conversation practice where learners pair up and act out different scenarios.
Oh, fun.
It's like the grand finale. It brings everything together. Numbers, time, all the vocabulary they've learned.
Like they're finally performing on stage after weeks of rehearsals.
Exactly. And I bet it can be a bit nerve-wracking, putting yourself out there.
And also exciting, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a safe space to make mistakes and learn from them. And the more you practice, the more natural it all becomes.
So it's really about going beyond just knowing the material. It's about developing those communication skills.
For sure. It's about giving learners the confidence to navigate everyday situations.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
I agree.
We've seen how a well-structured lesson plan can take you from basic counting all the way to, feeling empowered to use numbers and time in your everyday life.
And it's a great reminder that learning should be both fun and effective. I mean, who knew a deep dive into a 100-minute lesson plan could be so interesting?
So to all our listeners out there, keep diving deep, keep exploring, and keep challenging yourselves to learn new things. Until next time.